Beautiful. You guys are quite popular on the Twitter. Not your Twitters, but like pretty much everyone seems to love you guys.
I'll take responsibility for that.
It's a secret and a mystery, you know, and it's like a cinnamon bun.
Go on.
Period.
Slyly go into my intro. Welcome to 3D Cast. I'm 3D Blast, host of 3D Cast, hosted by 3D Blast.
Can't think of any more words that rhyme.
Yeah, only two words rhyme with cast. I'm joined, of course, with Josh Starkey. I don't know why I called you by your real name. That was weird. Hexadecimal.
I feel so exposed.
Should I edit that out?
They'll know my not guarded secret because it's on Discogs.
And everything. Yeah, of course. Let's see. Who's not here before we introduce our awesome guests? The other half of Lost Angles, Encarta, is not here.
No.
I won't say his real name. Cyberpunk isn't here.
There's like 7 billion people on Earth who want to hear.
I meant my friend.
Guys, my mom is not here tonight. I'm sorry.
Just let's name all of them.
That's me. We're gonna go through my Facebook friends, see who isn't here, and of course Samir isn't here. Bummer.
Oh.
I was talking about regulars on the show, not just everybody. And those rudely interrupting voices you've heard are, let's see, we got...
George Harrison is not here.
We've got the duo of Death's Dynamic Shroud.WMV. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm James Webster.
Hi, I'm Tech Honors.
And we are happy to be here tonight.
Awesome. And of course, the third wheel. The other New World boy, we got Golden Living Room.
Hey there, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding profusely right now. How's everything going?
We can definitely put the show on
My name's
hold.
Joel, and I'm bleeding profusely.
Should we put the show on hold?
No, I'm good. If you don't hear from me for like 15 minutes, then maybe. But it's okay.
See, that's fucking hard world right there.
Oh yeah.
Hard as fuck.
This is officially, I'm calling this episode the New World Takeover.
Nice.
Because we're all about that life now. Apparently.
Like New World Order.
Yeah, that's what. That'd be good too. That'd be real good.
Nah.
But
Hey,
spell it.
it's your show. You can name whatever the fuck you want.
Spell it N-E-W if you do it that way, though.
What? It's the New World Takeover.
It is beautiful. Yeah. So we can start our normal bits before we get into whatever New World is. So we like to start off by saying what we've been listening to this week. Hex, you want to start us off, or the last 2 weeks, I guess?
What have I been listening to this week? Oh yeah, I just recently caught up on the 2014 album from a German avant-garde band called Einstürzung Neubauten. Their 2014 release Lament.
I was going to say it's pronounced 2814.
Yeah.
Yes. Well. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah. It's the whole thing is like a concept album about how World War I never ended, and it's like everything that came after it is just a continuation of World War I. So There was like one track where he had like a weird auto-tuned self-duet, which was from the viewpoint of Kaiser Wilhelm and Tsar Nicholas. And they were like,
This album is so high concept.
sending telegrams to each other not to like murder each other's armies. It's so weird.
It's pretty tight though.
What kind of music is it exactly?
It's it's like avant-garde industrial, but also like barbershop quartet at times. It was very inconsistent and a lot of spoken word, but in German sometimes.
Sounds like a romp.
Yeah. Lament by Einstein NUWRLD. That's probably pronounced right. I don't know.
All right. Look that up. Check that out. That sounds like a great time. Got to get him on the show.
Yeah.
I'll send him a telegram.
Yeah, get Blixenbergarld on the show. All
All right, James, do you want anything?
Yeah. Been listening to a lot of Lamp again, which is this amazing Japanese like adult contemporary band almost. They're just like super chill, like bossa nova vibes. But the female singer in the group has just like the most angelic voice I've ever heard. So I've been listening to a lot of Lamp and Billy Joel's The Nylon Curtain. Busted that one out again this week. That was fun.
Yeah, I listened to that like a week ago too.
Hey, nice, yeah. Billy Joel's love letter to the baby boomer generation. Where's the orchestra? Wasn't this supposed to be a musical? And and I listened to Sea Change yesterday. I think I tweeted about it, and it was pretty. Yeah. It was pretty sad.
Yeah,
it was fucking sad shit. But man, Nigel Godrich in his fucking prime.
All right.
beautiful.
Sounds great. Tech?
I've been listening to this album by a band called Cross Record called Wabi Sabi. It's like kind of like slow core, like low or I don't know.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Tech.
No, by all means.
No, it's insane that it's called Wabi Sabi because that's a concept from Zen Buddhism that I had to fucking talk about like 20 times today.
Oh,
because I work as basically a tour guide at this Japanese house and garden, and so Wabi is this ideal that something is the most beautiful when it's natural, so like an unpainted, unfinished surface. And Sabi is the ideal of celebrating the age or journey that something has gone through. So if you think about a tea bowl that has been broken, and then the pieces are glued back together with gold lining so you can sort of reflect upon the repair and enjoy it.
Sounds kind of like Vaporwave.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Relate that. You've been doing a tour on Vaporwave the whole day. Didn't even know it.
So yeah, sorry, Tech, but I just that was hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, it's
does it have anything to do with wasabi?
No.
Like, is it just a combination of both of them?
It's pretty hot.
Anyways. And it's not really wasabi.
Anyway, also I've been listening to a lot of early 90s indie rock like Pavement. James, did you have any lengthy tirade to interrupt you?
It is so amazing that you say that because I was walking on the road today.
Dear God.
Oh,
And it was
I
really
didn't even
fucking
get it.
dull, like Pavement.
I didn't even get it at first.
Jesus.
That's kind of like Vaporwave.
Oh my God.
Long and dull.
So thanks for having us, guys. This has been fun.
See you later.
Wait, was there anything else?
Oh, no, that's my... yeah, that's good.
All right, and I purposely left Golden Living Room for the last, just so he could repair his body. Are you okay to talk about what you've been listening to?
I'm just passed out here in the corner. No, I've been I'm a music teacher, so I try to I have to appeal to my students' interests, but at the same time I have to push them past things like Kesha and shit. So I was exposing my student to some Elliott Smith last week. Ballad of Big Nothing. Pretty big on that.
Man.
Pretty big on Elliott Smith. And also, I've just been kind of discovering emo, 90s emo for the first time, like American football. And, I mean, I didn't know I liked it at the time. I didn't know it was emo at the time, but Waxwing is another one that I really like. Heard one of their songs on a skate tape from Kansas City, and they're pretty cool.
Sick.
And let's see, what else? Oh yeah, and the new Vectroid and Civic.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that shortly before. Yeah, that track is a banger.
Oh yeah, that one's Yuko. Yeah, that one's great. So yeah, that's what I think you like it.
Yeah, I've listened to that track a couple times. It's a good one.
Well, I listened to it 9 times, so.
9 is just a little bit more than a couple.
A baker's couple.
A baker's Damn. I guess I'll go. I'll be real. I listened to nothing but Death's Dynamic Shroud and Golden Living Room for the past week.
Yeah, all right.
And a big shout out to like the website vaporwave.io. Kind of been hanging out in there and listening to whatever's been streaming. We just hang out. I played I'll Try Living Like This and Post Internet a couple days ago. Actually, it's a funny story. So I think we were talking in like our message thing about this whole shebang, and I was like, oh, I should probably listen to Post Internet. I listened to it before, but I wanted to refresh myself. So I was looking it up while I had the stream on mute, and I could see like this album artwork, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. So I'm looking up Post Internet, and I click it, and I realize that it's already playing in the room. And it was the same. I was like, oh, it was the same album artwork, and I was like, oh, this is already playing. So I listened to that, and it was fun. You know, gotta be refreshed, because everyone hates me because I've never really explored you guys.
Well, that's fine. I'll be quizzing you at the end.
You know, that album artwork is by an artist named Michael Green, and that was through New Hive Collective. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that art block, but yeah, Michael Green. I just want to give a shout out to him.
Michael Green is the fucking shit.
Oh, wait. Like that dude Michael Green from like Facebook?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He just did. He did
He's
the
not here
Second
either,
Life.
by the way.
He played Second Life every day for an entire year, and then like took a picture and like tweeted about like what he was doing that day. Yeah, like he released an album on Atlantis Recordings that was supposed to have been made by his Second Life avatar. Like, it's just the fucking coolest shit, right?
Yeah, that's very New World.
Yeah, dude is legit as fuck.
It's very New World. Oh man. Trying to think. Yeah, I guess that's the normal. I was trying to think if there's a second part to this regular bit. I haven't done this show in like 2 weeks. My bad.
Strike one.
So before we get into each of y'all like histories and whatever New World is and whatever the quote unquote interview part of this show, we're gonna play a track. I guess let's see. The first one I have written is CD Factory / Drama from I'll Try Living Like This by DDS.WMV. If one of y'all wants to explain that.
Yeah, so basically when we made this album, Keith was in town because he was playing a show, and he just stayed for an extra like 4 days, and I just took off work, and we basically just worked from as soon as we woke up to when we went to bed, and it was really sweet. But when we were done, we didn't have enough material for an album, so I had to sort of just tack on another track basically, but it ended up becoming like one of my like personal favorites. I don't know if that means that I'm like super arrogant or I don't know. But just something that's funny to note about this song, there's a section at the end that samples Ennio Morricone from the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly soundtrack. It's this really moving segment where there's a Japanese radio drama in the backgrounds, and that radio drama is actually an early 90s recorded radio thing about A Link to the Past and like the backstory of that Zelda game.
Strange.
Yeah, so like in the scene, what's happening is Link's father has just like rescued his wife from the clutches of Ganon's henchmen.
Wow.
And yeah, so she's like dying in his arms, and the moment that she dies, he screams her name, Ruito! And the infant Link lets out this just haunting baby's wail. And then there's applause, and the applause is actually sampled from this video I have of the Operational Thetan conference from 2007. So it's like a Scientology convention.
Okay.
So Tom Cruise is actually on the album, his hands, which it was big coup to get him on board for that. And so while they're applauding, Link's father actually then experiences the death of his wife again and again, which is a big part of Scientology, is just reliving the worst moments of your life. So it was actually like an in-joke about Scientology, but there's no way that anybody would ever know that unless I told them, because like, oh wait, is that Tom Cruise who's clapping there? Oh. So yeah,
His distinctive clap.
Yeah, so as the Scientologists wildly applaud, Link's father loses his wife again and again. So that's what's happening at the end of this song.
All right, well, we're gonna.
I hope you enjoy it.
We're gonna go to that, and yeah, I hope you. I don't even fucking Scientology and death and Link. All right,
it's a dynamic shroud, my friends.
Yeah, I'll try reliving like that.
Ooh.
Pretty funny.
Nice.
Pretty funny. All right, we're gonna cut to that track and be right back.
Compact discs themselves being their actual manufacture.
What? Memes? You said the word of the day.
Y'all like Pepe?
All right. Well, you just heard from Scientology. You slyly came back from that. That was Oh yeah, you said something about how the title is in like Korean.
Oh, there's actually like a secret code. So a lot of Death Dynamic Shroud albums, like at the beginning, it was like Tech would make an album all by himself and release it as Death Dynamic Shroud. Then I would do it, and then we sort of go back and forth. So the albums that Tech made, all of the track titles, generally speaking, are all like mesh style, where he uses all like the special Unicode characters. And then the ones I made, I did it like Vectroid style, with like a mix of all caps, English, and Japanese. And then when Keith and I got together and made Neon Genesis Evangeli, which is just the most genius music pun that anybody has just ever come up with, but I don't feel like anybody cares, and it really breaks my heart.
You should have called it Peanut Butter Vangeli.
That's fucking gross. So if it's Keith and I, then it's in Korean. That was like the joke, but we're not gonna be doing that anymore. I think we're just gonna be all English because fuck Vaporwave.
Yeah, that's our motto here. Fuck Vaporwave. So yeah, that was CD Factory / drama from I'll Try Living Like This by Death's Dynamic Shroud.WMV. DDS.
Movie video?
What?
Isn't that what it stands for? Windows Movie Video? What is that? WMV?
Yeah, Windows Media.
Or something.
Or, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's the Windows Media Player like video format. We can get into the origins of the name later on.
Why don't we get in? Oh wait, you know what? I was gonna say let's get into it right now, but then I forgot about our other thing. So what we'd like to do again is kind of our music influence history. So like to separate it by like early childhood, where like you're listening to mainly stuff your parents are playing or something, and then kind of like middle school area, like, you know, if you're growing up and you're like a teenage rebellious boy, and then kind of end of high school to college, and then if there's anything else. That's how I like to separate it. So I guess we'll start with let's randomize it. We're gonna start with Joel, or Golden Living Room, if he's here.
Yeah, man. Sorry.
You're good.
Early Golden Living Room music influences from my parents would include selections from the James Taylor discography. Yeah. Okay, so we have the music that I hate the most, which would be Michael McDonald. Sorry if anybody likes Michael McDonald. But I can't. That's the one I couldn't go back to. You know, everything else that my parents like, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Could never get into Michael McDonald. But it's Sade. And my parents also listened to classical music, mainly like romantic period, impressionistic stuff like Debussy and Ravel. And so that was always playing. And they also, I found out later that they listened to New Age music, like Brian Eno and what's that? I can't remember the other guy's name. But yeah, anyway. And my grandmother was a pianist. She played all kinds of stuff. So, but I would say mainly Sade, James Taylor, maybe I can't remember. Sorry, kind of
That's all right.
a little bit. Yeah. So, am I going from like period to period right now?
Yeah, I guess young middle childhood, then I guess late teens, and then current, I guess.
Sure. Okay, so then, like, when I became aware of my own interest in music, I was listening to Smash Mouth. That was my
Yeah, now we're talking.
Fuck yeah.
NUWRLD.
Yeah, that was my first tape, was that Smash Mouth tape.
Astro Lounge.
Yep, that was it. And that song, like everybody wants to get high or whatever.
Pre-check.
Pre-Shrek Smash Mouth.
That's when Smash Mouth's on Beer on the Rug.
That song "We're Getting Stoned" came on, and like me and my friends are like singing along to it. We didn't know what it meant. My mom was like giggling in the background, and she's like, "You guys shouldn't sing that. Don't sing that." I'm like, "Why? Well, what is it?" She's like, "No, I'm not going to talk about that. But you just don't sing, change the song." And so then we found out what that meant. No, but then from there it was Papa Roach, and it was Disturbed and Slipknot and all the new metal kind of stuff. I was real angry, but
I didn't know that about you, Joel. That is fascinating.
Wait, how old are you, Joel?
I'm 28.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, now I understand.
I mean, he makes New World, and you can't make New World if you're under the age of 28. That's
Yeah.
like,
Wow. I didn't realize that was a rule, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's like 28 to 35.
Vaporwave has a 18 and under tag on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess from there I discovered Nirvana. I knew Nirvana all the time. Oh man, I forgot about Bone Thugs and Harmony. Yeah. Bone Thugs and Harmony was really big in between my childhood to middle school time, because I wasn't allowed to listen to a lot of music because I was raised in a really conservative Christian family at the time, and so my sister would listen to R&B, rap, hip hop all the time, and I would sit outside of her door and like listen because I wasn't allowed to listen to it. And so one time I won this really cool Beanie Baby, and yeah, it was bad. I still have the tags on it and everything.
I still have a ton of those.
Hashtag rare. Anyway, I traded her this rare Beanie Baby for a Bone Thugs and Harmony mixtape that I smuggled in my backpack with my Walkman on the school bus, and I got away with it for a couple of months before my mom found it and then threw it away.
Geez, your Beanie Baby back?
I'm not bashing my mom or anything. I mean, we've talked about this. She just tried to protect me, but no. Anyway, yeah. So I moved on and I got into Nirvana, and from Nirvana I discovered Sonic Youth and the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix. I mean, Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles were playing all the time when I was a kid anyway, because my parents are hippies. We're hippies. My dad's like 70, so I found the Beatles, and yeah, kind of went down that road for a really long time. College, I got into oh man, I was really into Devendra Banhart. I don't know if you guys know Devendra Banhart.
yeah.
Huge into Devendra Banhart and Vetiver and let's see, Andy Samberg's wife. What's her name again? The harp player.
Joanna Newsom.
Oh, yeah.
Joanna Newsom. Yeah, I was huge into Joanna Newsom too. And so I went through this like hippie folk.
Yeah, that's the brave new America. That's
Yeah.
the beginning of the joke of New World.
It's true.
Yeah, and kind of like segues into that, because then I started playing MMO video games like Fantasy Star Online.
There it is. Keyword. Fantasy Star.
Yeah.
And so that music was on, and that kind of changed everything. And then I went to college and I got into jazz music, and I learned how to play jazz guitar, and I studied Charlie Parker and Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and stuff.
Real musician.
and obviously classical music, Brahms and Debussy and Wagner and stuff like that. And then from there is when I got into the electronic music. I was never into electronic music before I was in my 20s, which I actually didn't get into electronic music until about 2011.
Wow.
2012. And my friends from Kansas City started, Kansas City and Wichita started Beer on the Rug, and exposed me to Colts, and which exposed me to Vectroid and Macintosh Plus and all that stuff. So that's kind of how I got caught up with all that, because
You fell into that trap.
he was one of my friends who read Beer on the Rug.
The favorite trick.
Oh, God.
But yeah, that's kind of my background. Sorry, it's kind of long-winded.
That's fine. I mean, we're going to hear three more ones, or two more ones, rather. That sounds dope. So I guess let's do it backwards order now. I'll do tech now.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I listened to obviously whatever my parents listened to. I was really into the Taproot Manuscript by Neil Diamond, which is like this weird album. Like the first half is like standard,
Wait.
Philip, you're breaking up.
Oh yeah. Repeat the last couple seconds.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Okay. Am I good now?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I think my computer's being weird. Fuck. I hope
You're good.
Yeah, am I still good? All right. Yeah, I know when I was a kid, I listened to Taproot Manuscript by Neil Diamond a lot, which was this album where Neil Diamond just like the first half is like all pop songs, but then the second half is like, I guess he went to Africa or something and did like all this kind of like quote world music stuff and
just present world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not New World.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Current world.
But I still like think that album is like objectively pretty good. But I think like I don't know. I loved '60s pop music, like all like the malt shop type songs, and like girl groups like the Chiffons and the Shangri-Las and stuff. And then like I started listening to like I guess the radio, like pop radio. I got like I was like all about Meatloaf.
Oh, hi.
Like obsessively all about that song. And I don't know what, like just basically pop music, I think.
What about the Beach Boys, Tech?
Yeah, I liked the Beach Boys too, because my dad, that's like his favorite band. And I liked them, like, that kind of fell into the whole 60s pop thing, I think, for me. Like, it was just, like, all one thing. I got, like, a lot more into the Beach Boys as, like, an adult. But, yeah, eventually, like, in the mid-90s, like, that's when I, like, switched from the pop station to the rock station. And, you know, like, just, you know, grunge and post-grunge and just alt rock or whatever. Like, I was, like, all about Smashing Pumpkins and, you know, that era of radio rock music.
Bush,
I had 16 Stone. I liked No Doubt. I had Cranberries and
I love the Cranberries.
I listened to Dreams the other night and was just like, man, this is so good.
the Winter Sleep album, awesome.
But yeah, and then when I was in high school, like I was with James in high school, and it was weird because like we started getting into like, well, we got into Radiohead. James first, you can have credit. But, no, we got into Radiohead, and then like and I was like really into Radiohead and Nine Inch Nails, and like I was like all super goth in high school, like it was really ridiculous. But then I got into Radiohead, and I was like not interested in being goth anymore.
That's the cure.
Yeah, and so but so like James and I, like I'm telling James a story.
No, by all means, I've been fucking talking all day. So
no, it's just like I think like this part of my life was definitely like James and I finding music together, because the thing was we didn't have I didn't have a computer. Like I don't think I had a computer, and if I did, it definitely wasn't connected to the internet at the time. So like there was a Napster existed, but I couldn't use it. And so like downloading music wasn't a thing where you could just like find stuff. So like I know like I basically would go on Amazon when I was like 16 and 17. I'd go on Amazon and then just like look up like Amnesiac by Radiohead, and then you'd look at the section that's like customers who bought this also bought, and then I would find like 5 random albums like based on the fact that people bought them because they also bought Amnesic. But
we discovered like so much awesome shit that
Yeah.
way, like Sigaros and Godspeed You Black Emperor and the microphones.
Yeah.
And...
Like I bought 5 CDs at once one time, and it was like I got like Spiritualized, Massive Attack, like Tricky, like I don't know, like it was like a Sparkle Horse, like it was a super good.
yeah.
The microphones, yeah. And so then like basically we got like into this like indie music or whatever, but like very indie, and then like I was kind of pissed like after I graduated and all these like high schoolers were going into high school and they were like capable of acquiring all this music a whole lot more easily than me, and I was like, no, you don't understand, I worked for this. but yeah, and then so listened to like got super into Muse in the Absolution era, and like before Muse got really embarrassing, but I was like very into Muse because I was like just like Meatloaf. I was really like into like really theatrical rock music. Like I just liked over the top shit, and the band that I was in was also very similar. Like
Over the top shit.
yeah, over the top shit. And so that was kind of like into that, and like Brit, like post Brit rock, like the stuff that was, you know, came out of like Radiohead or whatever, like Dubs and Elbow and I don't know, British music or whatever. And then in 2009, I started realizing that I was only listening to music that I like grew up with, and like was only excited about albums that were coming out by bands that were basically becoming washed up, and decided to make a conscious like effort to pursue new music because I didn't want to be like all the like baby boomers basically, where you just like, oh, back in my day music was good. Like I wanted to be informed, and so I like basically just started making myself listen to Pitchfork music, which I was like very against at first, but then like I just started trying to embrace it and like appreciate what I could about new music, and then just like slowly got more and more into like I ended up like going like on tiny mixtapes a lot, which is how I like found out about vaporwave, and then just like experimental and avant-garde and cassette culture and that kind of stuff, and then now I'm sort of taking a break from being way into that and just listening to a lot of like I don't know, older like from like 90s and 80s like indie rock, because I missed that. I don't know. I mean, I
think
don't know anything about it.
What you said a couple moments ago, you said experimental avant-garde cassette culture. I think it's a way better term to describe like the vaporwave community instead of just vaporwave.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't it doesn't narrow it down. It leaves it open. It's experimental, avant-garde, and then cassette culture. It's like I think that's like perfect.
Yeah, well, there's like a lot of like, you know, there's things like Piper Spray is probably a good example of something that's like I guess like if Piper Spray insisted that he was vaporwave, then people would be like, this is vaporwave. But since he never did that, it's just kind of experimental or avant-garde, you know what I mean? So I think it's, I don't know, there's like a lot that falls under that umbrella or whatever, but yeah.
All right, sounds good. I mean, you kind of covered the end of your story, James, but if you want to start from the beginning.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot of overlap, especially in high school. But yeah, I mean, I'll get to that in a second.
In the next episode.
Yeah. But I grew up in a largely like Beatles household, so like I sort of have a natural affinity towards what you would call Beatle-esque chord progressions and things like that. So what the British were doing, sort of hearkening back to certain pieces of musical theory that are just very emotionally potent, I guess, as opposed to a more like folkier tradition of like American rock. It sounds all very pretentious. But yeah, I mostly listen to the Beatles and oldies, sort of similar to what Tech's experience was. when I was just like a small child. Also, you know, like the Kenny G Christmas album and Neil Diamond's. But also, my dad was really into synth music, but not like in like a cool, like arty kind of way or something. Like he was really into like the Miami Vice theme, for example, just like hard hitting Jan Hammer, you know, just he liked that like 80s synth sounds. Van Halen's 1984 was another staple of my household growing up. But he also had like some weird like new age stuff, like the Japanese synth artist Tomita. He had
man,
like
I had that too.
Yeah, like I'll never forget, like one of my earliest memories is I was young enough that I was still like crawling, and I remember like crawling up to my parents' LP collection and just like looking through it and finding the Bermuda Triangle album by Tomita. And I would encourage your listeners to go online and just Google Tomita's Bermuda Triangle album cover. It's like the face of Satan with these like horns going off into the night sky, and right above his like head is the moon with like a skull on it. And there's like it's like the ocean, but there's a triangular hole, and the water is all pouring directly into it, and they're like mermaids with like fangs, like wrapping their tails around like World War II fighter pilots. Like it is some wild shit.
Tune in next week for our next segment of Artist Describes album artwork.
But like just that moment, like seeing Satan in the sky, like that album cover, it was a turning point for me. I feel like that was the moment that I opened my heart to our Dark Lord. When my first steps into this to this damned world that I now occupy.
There it is. If you look in our Skype chat, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what that sound is if you heard it on the recording.
But he had these albums, and later on when I could actually use audio equipment, it was just very wild shit. Also Vangelis, they had the Cosmo soundtrack, and Ray Lynch, who is this new age guy who made this album Deep Breakfast. They used to like play that cassette tape when I was having trouble like falling asleep when I was a little kid. And it is very much like there's some like acoustic instruments, there's like violin and piano and some stuff, but it's just awesome analog synthesizers, all of these really awesome arpeggios that are like being performed through delay pedals, so they're like kind of off, like nothing is quite right because it's the 80s and it's not all digital and perfect, you know? So like that era of synthesizer music where it was just bearded men in smoke-filled rooms, like it's just like this image I have in my head of just like these dudes just they were almost more like electrical engineers than they were musicians, except for like Vangelis, who was, you know, the first big like crossover between classical composition and just absolute synthesizer virtuosity. But yeah, so that was like my sort of childhood, but the things that were really important to what I heard later on, just, you know, like British rock and new age shit. Then when I was in middle school, all of my friends were getting into like Bush and Smashing Pumpkins and all this shit, and I was like a classic rock kid, you know, and like a real fucking dick about it. Like, yeah, like I don't listen to music past 1980, like meh. But I got super hard into Pink Floyd. They were like the first band that I discovered like on my own. And I used to go to the CD store after school and like spend my allowance on Pink Floyd albums, and I had never heard them, but it was like, oh, Animals, well, it's Pink Floyd, so it has to be good. And then that's like another like memory I never lost, was coming home from like 7th grade after going to the CD store and getting Animals and sitting down on the couch and, you know, okay, Pigs on the Wing, that's cool. And then Dogs slowly starts fading in, and I still have my backpack on, and I was sitting at the edge of the couch, and I was like rocking back and forth, like gripping my knees. My jaw was just dropped. I had never heard music so fucking sick. And then in the middle there's just this like 5-minute synth solo. It's just like bass drum and synthesizer and like no other instruments for 5 minutes. So yeah, like Pink Floyd was incredible. And it wasn't until I was in high school that Oasis and Brit rock started to get fairly popular, and I caught the tail end of the video for All Around the World by Oasis, and it really changed my life because I was super excited because it was music as good as the classic rock that I was obsessed with, but it was obviously like produced and, you know, in retrospect overproduced in a very modern red line loud style. And I know that liking Oasis is no longer a popular stance. They didn't really stand the test of time in a lot of ways. I mean, their first 3 albums, sure, especially Definitely Maybe, but like I will always love Oasis and just fuck you, you know, like that the dual guitar assault and just the cocaine bombast, especially of Be Here Now. It's just the Beatles aping is just so fucking brutal. I don't know. It's and for me it was like, so like Joel, it's funny, like you were into like all this new metal, and I was so repelled by that because I was so into like super emotional, like it's all about the quote unquote like British chord progressions that it all harkens back to like the Beatles, which harkens back to the like romantic era classical music, which my mom specifically, like she made me take piano lessons when I was like 9 through middle school and everything, and I was always sort of exposed to classical and like romantic era music, so like, you know, Mozart and Beethoven and Chopin and Debussy and all this shit. Those classical artists, you know, it was like the tricks, if you will, that they developed. That was the same shit that the Beatles were using because they were all, you know, educated, you know, musically, I guess. And that tradition, since the Beatles influenced every British band after them, and Oasis influenced a bunch of bands around them, that I guess that connection was never lost. So yeah, I got super hard into Oasis, and then eventually discovered Radiohead. And this is a third musical moment in my life that I'll never forget. And it's another beautiful 90s kid moment. So now it's the year 2000, and I'm in high school. And I go to Borders Books and Music, rest in peace. And they used to have these like listening stations. So when a new album would come out, they would have like all the new CDs, and then you could just hit the button and listen to them. And I had heard of Radiohead because like my dad's artist friend, like his son, like had painted the cover of the Bends on his bedroom wall, and I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this? And he's like, oh, it's the Bends, Radiohead, man. It's like awesome. He was like a Gen Xer. So Kid A had just come out, and there was like a cardboard stand-up for it, and I'm just like staring at this album cover like, okay, I know Radiohead is supposed to be like this big fucking deal, but like this album cover is so sick. Like, can the music sound like what this looks like? Is this truly making this promise to me? And it was there in the listening station. I put on my headphones, and the opening bars, the Everything in Its Right Place, came on. And I pulled the headphones off of my head and stopped myself, because it was exactly what I had been waiting my entire life to hear. was coming through those headphones.
Destiny.
Yeah, it really was. But I knew that I couldn't start with Kid A, and so I bought OK Computer that night because I didn't want to be like a tool. Like, I don't know. I have this weird like purist, like I can't do it unless I do it in the right order. And I knew OK Computer was a big deal. And
I'm with you. If I like a band, if I want to explore a band, I'll get their entire discography.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, like I haven't played Final Fantasy 9 because I've only beaten Final Fantasy 1 through 7, and I'd never beat Final Fantasy 8. So I've never played, like I've played, but I never beat like 9, 10, 11. We'll talk about later. Joel represent. Yeah, so I don't know, like I had to do it in order. But yeah, that moment, it was like my ears caught on fire. It was like everything in the universe, everything was in its right place, if you will. You know, it was pretty earth-shattering. But also around that time, I was getting super hard into a lot of weird American indie rock, like turn of the millennium indie rock. So like Modest Mouse, which also was on, they were label mates with Quasi, who is this incredible band. They're a duo from Portland. It's just a guy and a girl. The girl plays drums and the guy plays guitar, but he also plays this thing called a Roxachord, which is like
hardcore sounding.
Yeah, so it's like a Rhodes that he's like disassembled and put in a custom wooden box that is run through like all kinds of crazy overdrive and shit. So it's like a keyboard instrument, but it just sounds like god awful, like a clavichord that's, you know, been eaten by a raccoon and shat out or something. Like it's just this, it's like a fucking hellfire scream. But it's just this super weird, crazy music, but it has that Beatlesque chord progression. It has that sort of like British chord progression sense or whatever. And this was about the time that I was starting to write a lot of music on my own because, you know, once I got to high school, it was like, okay, I need to switch from piano to guitar because obviously I want to get laid, and piano wasn't going to do it in high school. So yeah, so that was another big thing that I was into. And then, you know, when I was in the 11th grade, I met Tech, who was a grade under me, and we started playing in a band together. And then you heard all that about how we got super hard into Muse. Back when they were still fucking sweet. And again, you know, you listen to Muse, it's that super dramatic, over the top, it's almost operatic, right? But it's still like in that late romantic era sense of that musical compass, if you will.
If I can interject here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you're not allowed to interject him.
Yeah,
all the way around.
No, there was a really cool thing just regarding meeting James, because he had he had learned piano and kind of already was able to identify the chord progression tricks that he was like so attracted to, like the British and romantic chord progressions that he liked. And it was just funny because like growing up, I didn't recognize any of that stuff because I didn't like know anything music theory wise or whatever. But then like all of the songs that I had loved all my life, all were like rooted in those same chord progressions, that same like exact same thing that James liked so much. And it was cool because then when he like showed that to me, like he was like, yeah, like you can do this trick, blah, 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 blah. And then I would like hear it in all the songs that I liked. And like when we started writing music, like together, it was just like extremely natural because we already liked all of the same like tricks. It was just like, as a weird, I don't understand like why I was drawn to those sounds or whatever. I guess I don't understand why James was either. But
it was super weird. Like you know, if only we were gay.
Yeah, I know.
Like we would be like the world's fucking like
just
like unstoppable like superpower, you know? If
so
only we could be unified in that way.
I know, it just sucks. It just sucks that we were born in the world cursed with being white, cisgendered.
Oh, man.
But I mean, it's so weird, but it is like written in our stars or whatever. Like Tech and I just clicked. It was like the exact things that we loved about music our entire life.
I feel like you guys
we shared.
You guys should start getting into some of that experimental avant-garde love culture.
Well,
you You know.
If I were attracted to tech, I think it would have come out a long time ago. But no offense, dude, but
It's just not the case.
it's just not what I'm into.
Well, thank God we knew that. That was one of our questions later. Let me cross that off.
And it's not like because you're like a man and it's like, no, I'm not fucking gay. It's just like, I mean, I can be attracted to a man maybe, but you're not the one that's done that for me.
You're not attractive.
So.
You ugly piece of shit. No.
Yeah, keep driving that home.
Yeah, we get it, dude.
You're
Chill.
obviously very handsome, Tech, and a lot of boys and girls love you.
A lot of people on Twitter love that.
It's true. It's true. So anyway, just to wrap this up because it's going on forever. This is what happens when you get a pair of narcissists that are also best friends on your show. They'll just go back and forth talking about each other endlessly.
No, trying to fuck each other.
But yeah, I'll just fast forward. So Tech was doing this thing where he was getting into like, you know, a bunch of new music, and he was sort of ahead of me on that because for a long period of time we both listened to a lot of video game music exclusively. Once I discovered that I could just listen to like NSF files from ROM rips for Nintendo games.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was like discovering this whole universe of thousands of albums of electronic music that I had never heard. And it was like divorced from fucking shitty gaming culture and nerd culture and all that fucking bullshit that, what's that fucking Big Bang Theory, like fucking Hot Topic, Comic-Con, like stab myself in the heart. Like I can't take your fucking Twitch, like fuck you. But it was just like this incredible like unknown library of all this crazy Japanese music that was composed under these insane restrictions that you could have no more than 3 notes happening at any given time. So there were all these like forced arpeggiated chord progressions and things, and a lot of them were emulating a lot of pop music and a lot of classical music, and it was just absolutely fascinating. So I was making a lot of video game mixtapes, which we call proto New Worlds, not to jump ahead, because I mean, in a large way, like Death Dynamic Shroud started as video game mixtapes, and like we were so like proud as musicians that we didn't even call them albums. We just posted them as like New World mixtapes, like Derelict Mega Tower. Like I consider that to be like a 4-hour long like mixtape. I mean, it's just disco edits of video game music, and it was, you know, taking, you know, a long form video game composition, and maybe there's like this 5-second part where it does one of those chord progressions, one of those like tricks that Tech and I both really like zeroed in on. And it's like, man, why the fuck does this only happen 3 times? This needs to happen 50 times, and this is going to not only happen 50 times, but I was also really into The Caretaker about that time too. Leland Kirby, yeah, he is one of my just all-time idols.
It's a shame that Cyberpunk isn't here, or New Type, or you know, whatever you want to call him. He loves The Caretaker.
Yeah. I mean, what Leland Kirby was doing was taking old ballroom LPs and zeroing in on really awesome parts of a chord progression, and then just doing these endless loops, and then just drenching it in reverb, which is something that we always loved for whatever reason, because we were into post-Brit rock or whatever, I don't know. So the idea was like sort of combining these concepts of, you know, The Caretaker and video game music. And then eventually Tech discovered Vaporwave before I did, and I was working on the first Winter Sleep album, Dreams. And I was just like, I want to make the Nights into Dreams soundtrack, but I want to do it like, I'm just going to do a completely different version with different melodies, and I'm going to do it all from scratch, and it's just going to be like this fun compositional project, and I'm going to make this album and it'll be fun. And then Tech, we worked together at the time, and he starts playing New Dreams Limited, And one of the tracks on there is just it's a song from the Nights into Dreams soundtrack, not ripped from the game. It's like the song from the soundtrack, right? Like I recognize how it faded in and faded out, slowed down, and I was so furious, like just so angry. Like I've been working so hard to like try to capture this Sonic Team sound, and this motherfucker just waltzes in, rips the song off the directly from the OST and just slows it down, calls it their own, and they're the ones getting written up by Tiny Mixtapes. Like this is bullshit, you know? Like it was just that like angry, arrogant, natural response. But like obviously I fucking love video game music. Like that's why, like a large reason why I liked Vaporwave was because okay, it's Nights into Dreams, like duh. So it was really just a coincidence that I was making the Winter Sleep albums like as Vaporwave was starting to happen, because I didn't know about it at the time. And then it was like, all right, fine, I'll just throw it in and say, yeah, it's Vaporwave, please listen to it. But yeah, that's my musical journey, and it overlaps with I guess what I've been doing. But
That's brilliant. That was a good one. That could have been a whole episode.
well, guys, it's been fun.
In fact, like, I think we should definitely just go to another track, and then we'll get back to what New World is, and we can talk about that and Twitter questions. Sounds good. Right? We didn't miss anything, right?
No, James just about covered everything from 1600 to...
I was about to say. Yeah.
So first, there was Gregorian chant.
Tell me my show.
So I guess we're gonna go to the track "Butterflies" by Tech Honors, right? That's all right, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is from SeaWorld Heartbreak. If you want to talk about that maybe a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That album was like supposed to be kind of like a joke against C-punk, but also like kind of an homage, because I did genuinely like a lot of the I guess aesthetics of C-punk, and I mean just like I don't know, I liked that idea, but most C-punk music is like just total trash. And so I wanted to make this like album that was a C-punk album, but done like in the New World style, hence SeaWorld, which itself is a fucking joke. But I mean, yeah, like it was supposed to be like the album is supposed to be kind of like trashy, kind of how C-punk is, and just like kind of lowbrow, I guess. And it was like the idea behind it was like this like kind of trashy anime that explored like teen love, like relationships, and I don't know, it was just kind of I was just trying to make a trash ass album.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, but Butterflies was I had started, especially like particularly with that album, I had started like doing mashups, I guess, like Echo Jam mashups, and I just liked that I could kind of like take these parts from these songs and like these chord progressions and lay them on top of one another and have them work. And it was really cool to like sometimes my favorite thing about Vaporwave was always the idea of recontextualizing something.
Right.
So, like I really liked, like I got into Vaporwave because I really did like the whole concept, that anti-consumerist like read of Vaporwave or whatever. And so I liked the idea of using songs that had like some type of relevance when layered with each other, which is kind of pointless for me to be talking about this regarding Butterflies, because that song really, like, that is just like a bunch of songs that were I just knew would sound good over top of each other. It's like a Kylie Minogue song from like her first album, and then there's like an NES song from like this weird puzzle game called Fire and Ice, and another NES song from I think when you beat like WWF WrestleMania, I think it plays, and a song from a '60s French pop artist named France Gall, and I know there's something else in there, but I can't remember.
We'll just have to listen to it then.
But yeah, do that.
All right, well, here's Butterflies from SeaWorld Heartbreak by Tech Honors. Yeah, we actually do. You guys talk there. A lot of questions are dumb.
Well, we tried to answer the really dumb ones on Twitter,
Yeah.
especially the ones regarding how handsome we are.
Yeah, I think I have a few of those just because I didn't want people to be pissed off if I didn't actually take their questions.
No, by all means, I am ready to answer that
All
question.
right. Well, before we get into questions, we're back. By the way, that was Butterflies from SeaWorld Heartbreak by Tech Honors. Track 2. I've heard. Anyways, so let's get into the meat of it. This is the second meat section. That was you just heard the first meat. This is the second meat, the dark meat. This is a question for all three of you from me. What is New World?
Well, that is the million-dollar question.
I've won. Congratulations, you've won.
So I know I just talked for like a half hour. So
Yeah,
but
you've used up all your time.
if I
Totally.
could just briefly introduce this. So first and foremost, it's a joke.
This is, for the record, this is the definitive definition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
episode. Refer to this episode.
one of the things that I didn't like about Vaporwave is after that like first wave, when it was like this really cool like I guess legitimate quote unquote movement, like art movement that was happening with all the sort of original people like like Vectroid and Internet Club, for example. Like those albums, there was sort of high concept behind them, so it didn't matter like, oh, it's just night slowed down. Well, but it's also like this really cool concept. And Internet Club especially, I mean, he had all of his weird like GeoCities websites and shit, and he went on and on at length about, what it meant that he was just looping, this song from Shenmue again and again. And it was really interesting. But then a lot of people were like, oh, I'm a vaporwave artist, and they were just slowing down music. And it's weird because it's hard for me to understand, when I was a young kid and like growing up, it was like you had to learn an instrument and be in a band to be a musician. And so now it was like a bunch of teenagers, and it was very old man of me probably to fault them for this, but it was like, now I want to be part of the conversation, and look, I'm making vaporwave. But I always had a problem with like the over compartmentalization of music in a way, or like the over classification. Like you see it a lot in metal, especially. There's just like so many subgenres that it's like, well, why does this fucking matter? I don't know if it's like a thing like as a musician or what.
Well, I think
but
it's
just
a lot of things. It's like you're trying to be unique in a very obscure thing.
Yeah, I think the part that always bothered me about hyper classification, particularly in music, is because you have like, say there's like some genre you've made, and there's like 2 metal bands that are within this subgenre. It's like, well, is that really enough to warrant it as some sort of like label genre, or should you have should there be more like more artists doing this for you to really be like, yeah, this is a real style? Because otherwise, you're
otherwise your Metro song.
Yeah, it's a very arrogant like thing to call yourself a particular genre you've made up for yourself. Like, we're all so proud of you. Like,
and for the record, listeners, Tumblewave is legitimate. It's real. That wasn't us.
So like New World was actually it was a joke tag along with several other tags that just didn't take as well. One of which was Brave New America. Which was a play on like Weird New America or whatever. Regardless, though, it all started as a joke about vaporwave. I was in town and hanging out with Tech and our old bands, and I brought my computer and I was trying to load up Shenmue because I wanted to show them that I've always loved Shenmue since I was a kid, and then I forgot about it and got into vaporwave, and then I started playing it, and I was like, oh my god, Shenmue is the ultimate vaporwave. Like
really
it's an interactive vaporwave experience. Every door that you open leads to a new incredible vaporwave track. And so I was like, you know, I want to show this to you guys. You'll think this is hilarious, but I couldn't get the computer working, or I couldn't get the fucking emulator working on my laptop, and it was already like 5 a.m. So I was like, fuck it. So then, fast forward, it's New Year's Eve. I'm super sick, so I'm home. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a vaporwave album out of Shenmue, just so I can show tech what I was talking about. I never really meant for anybody to hear it. It was just like strictly a joke, because we had talked about doing, because we both lived in Philadelphia, and then Tech had to move back to Dayton for a while. And before he left, we had talked like, well, we definitely need to, you know, keep making music together. And Tech actually had the idea that we should do some sort of sample-based music, since that was sort of in vogue at the time, because vaporwave was getting big. So it wasn't like, let's make vaporwave. It was like, well, people are using samples. Like, that's something that we never really fucked with before. So it was like, let's try it. So it's New Year's Eve, and I plug my 4-track into my computer, and I start playing Shenmue, and there was this incredible, another moment I'll never forget, when I walked into the pizza shop on Dobuda Street, and the first track from Vanishing Vision by Internet Club is taken from the pizza place, and I had no idea. So it was this incredible validation, because that was always my favorite, and still is my favorite vaporwave album, except for maybe Mac Plus, just because Mac Plus is like a perfect album in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know, despite what anybody thinks about vaporwave,
yeah, I'm with you.
Like I have said before, and I'll say it again, like the first track on Mac Plus like stands alongside Everything in Its Right Place almost as one of those perfect first tracks. Like, you can't wait to fucking listen to the album the instant that you hear the first second of that track, you know? So anyway, so long story short, I make this Shenmue Online album. And the name Death Dynamic Shroud, there's this weird YouTube woman named Mad Cat Lady, and she does all this terrible 3D animation, and it's not like ironic. She's just really bad at it. And so one of them was called DeathDynamicShroud.WMV. So actually, when you search DeathDynamicShroud.WMV, I think we are the first thing that pops up now. But then there's also a YouTube video, and all you see is a skeleton wearing like a robe against black. And so the video is just this. She makes this super bizarre music too, which we have sampled in the past, and it's just like these like screams, just like and the skeleton that's like just moving its limbs, and it's like a fabric simulation test that she's doing. So it's like Death's Dynamic Shroud.
Well,
but
that answers
it's one of those.
Yeah. That answers one of our questions. Where does the name Death's Dynamic Shroud come from? From unknown caller.
Yeah.
Shouts out.
Yes, yeah. So that is where it comes from, and it's also funny because it's one of those things where, like, when someone has no self-awareness and it's like you uploaded a YouTube video and you like left the .WMV,
yeah,
like, the title, like, what the hell could you not see that? Like, how is this okay for you? So that was just, I don't know, just like super hilarious. So yeah, so New World was just a joke, but eventually, so like I made Shenmue Online, and then Tech made Teen Fantasy Mystic Quest, which
what,
really like took it. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said what besides you said it's a joke, but like, is there a difference between like style wise between like a regular vaporwave and like a New World track? Like, what does New World do new?
Well, it all
nothing?
started to change. Well, as the Dynamic Shroud went along, it became just like Tech and I making I guess a version of vaporwave.
Right.
Not like when we make music, we never like try to make something in a genre, but you know, we were obviously doing things that vaporwave artists were also
Yeah,
doing.
we were tagging it vaporwave.
Right.
Yeah. And so when Tech made Mystic Quest, it was like, whoa. Because Shenmue Online was very much a joke. I did almost no, that nothing is hardly really slowed down. There's no reverb or anything. It was just like recorded from the computer onto my 4-track. But Tech was doing these like epic fucking echo jams, basically, but in sort of that Caretaker style. So originally the idea was that it was New World started to sort of sound like vaporwave, but like done by Leland Kirby almost. Like it was just like really kind of dark in a way.
I
But
think that's what I was gonna, if I can chime
yeah,
in.
please.
Well, who do you think you are?
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm so sorry. I think the big thing that separates, well, maybe I don't know how big it is, but I think the thing that separates New World from like, I guess like classic vaporwave or whatever is that we do New World with like a very little sense of irony. Like I feel like the like culture of irony that kind of produced vaporwave and like Tumblr-esque microgenres and that kind of thing is a very, I mean, it was born out of irony, and James and I were doing this very much because like we like loved the way it sounded and liked like Teen Fantasy Mystic Quest was very like is like a very serious sounding album, and like intentionally so. Like it's like I don't like it's supposed to be like sad and not in like a subversive way. And so I guess like I don't know, I guess it's like maybe New World can just like adapt with like some new Tumblr microgenre that like spirals out of control in response to like a culture of post irony, and it'll be like it'll be like aligned with like the new sincerity movement or something.
Well, and that's and I think that's you say sincerity, and I think that to piggyback on that, the biggest thing, the biggest difference is thematically, it's all like super nostalgic. Because when I said earlier that you have to be like 28 to 35 to make New World, like I'm not joking. Like you have to have had experienced the 90s at the age that we are. In order to like, because there's especially in those early albums, like there was a lot of like saccharine memories of like young love and like remembering your first crush and things like that, and a lot of that music from that time just like reminds us of being 13 in 1997 or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of interject here. That kind of is how I align with it. I didn't know I was making New World. Actually, James approached me, and I didn't know that James from Death Dynamic Shroud was also HCMJ, the dude on Tumblr who always reblogged everything that I posted. I think there are two different people. And so, anyway, the way I came about it was more of an escape. Like the music was an escape from bad feelings, and like you said, new love, teenage love, and things like that. Also, like teenage angst and teenage like issues and problems and self-awareness, worried about what people think and things like that. It was a way for me to escape, and so like I would grab these things like during a really emotional, trying part of my life, and I would play those tracks and then echo jam out the parts that particularly affected me, and it would spiral into some huge emotional kind of physical movement, I guess. I don't know.
Does post-internet fit into that as well?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I've never really... I say my music is New World just because I identify so much with the way that James has described it, James the Tech has described it, because they do a better job of describing it and talking about it than I do, because I'm not very good with words. I just know how it makes me feel. And I felt this way before I even knew what Vaporwave was. And the same with video game music. I mean, I approached video game music the same way that they did. in terms of making mixtapes and just genuinely loving listening to the soundtracks just to do it. But yeah, and also like the immersive MMO culture of PSO, Phantasy Star Online, and
Yep.
Final Fantasy 11. That music is going all the time, no matter what you're thinking in your own personal, your personal experience, and then your experience on what's on the game at the time. So that music is constantly happening, and so it's infiltrating into your soul at the time. And so you may be going through something terrible or something amazing or something, I don't know, or some kind of everyday experience, but that music is going all the time because, I don't know about you guys, but I was on those games.
Oh yeah,
all
big
the
time.
Oh yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I was still young. Like I had a Dreamcast and I had PSO, but we never had I never played online. And then when it came out for GameCube, I had it again and didn't play online still. But I played the hell out of just offline, everything about PSO. PSO is a huge influence. I could go. I mean, my first freaking a pseudonym for music was Razande.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, I have the album Pioneer. That's based off of Pioneer 1 and 2, the ship.
Yeah.
Fucking tight.
And I think I sampled the Pioneer 2 over just the city theme at the end of Pioneer 3. There's a lot of words that are Pioneer in the sentence. At the end, at the very last track of the EP Pioneer 3 is the Pioneer 2 city theme.
Well, when I got into when I started playing PSO, this was I guess I was in the 10th grade at the time. The music, especially in the forest, in PSO, I remember hearing that and having this Casio keyboard, and that was the first time that it was sort of it made me remember being a little kid and listening to new age music because my parents were playing it, and then it was the first time I realized, wait, I could make music like this. This is just a pad playing a major 7th chord or whatever. Or I probably didn't know it was a major 7th chord, but whatever. That sweet chord that I always play on the piano. If I just did that with a sweet pad and had some piano. Obviously, it's a lot more difficult than that. But a lot of my early attempts at making electronic music were I wanted to sound like PSO because it was just so perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And also, Joel, you said feeling, which is that's exactly, I don't know, that's the whole New World thing, right? It's it's just a feeling. It's a feeling of New Worlds.
Yeah, I was gonna say with the the concept that you would have to be a certain age or whatever to appreciate it, I think stems probably from the fact that when James and I were little, we had I don't know, James, did you have a regular Nintendo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. But basically the point is we started out with 8-bit video games, which was super enamoring to us or whatever. And then I think you got a Sega and I got a Super Nintendo. And which was obviously way cooler and all that stuff, but it was when Nintendo 64 and PlayStation came out and we were at the age at which we could appreciate the graphical difference.
Oh yeah. Oh my
then
God.
Yeah, so then you see these for the first time ever. It's like James and I have talked about this before, and it was one of the things we connected on when we were in high school was just this this love for seeing items in polygonally rendered 3D objects just turning in a circle, a lot of times in Resident Evil or Silent Hill.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even,
where you'd pick up an item and it just rotates.
even the PSO monomates and all the items and
Yeah.
those squares are so
Exactly. So the idea is that you can suddenly appreciate this being at the age at which you can appreciate these things, and then now being able to have the nostalgia for that experience of, oh my God, these graphics are so incredible, and
childlike wonder.
Yeah, and I just remember a time, and I guess going along with that whole that feelings concept or whatever, where I was talking with James, probably maybe a year ago or so, and it was sent me a screenshot of like, I don't know, it was like Sim City or yeah, I think it was like that EA.
SimCity 2000 or
Oh yeah,
Oh.
great game.
I think no, yeah, you're right. It was Sim City 2000 because you always played that on and off. And it was just like this. I think it was from that. But anyway, it was just a screenshot of like this airport and these like walls like that would otherwise serve as like sound barriers, I guess, for the airport, and then like a little patch of trees, and then I just like, I guess like it's like so hard to articulate, but it was just like I saw these trees in this screenshot, and just like the idea that like these trees would grow there like somehow on their own in this like virtual world, which of course they're not growing there on their own, but like you can like suspend your disbelief enough to like feel like that's like genuine, and then was just like very, very emotionally moved by it, and was like kind of like saying that to James, and like just understanding that James like fully understood what I was feeling when looking at these trees in this screenshot.
Oh yeah, I think I called you like my offset tree brother because like because nobody gets it, man.
Exactly. It was very, very like it's just like having some sort of bizarre emotional connection and feeling like you can like wanting to be in this world that you used to be in that was new at the time as an escape then as it is an escape now or something.
See, like
the concept of escape, that's my first album, Plug In Drop Out, was completely Plug In Drop Out. That was the concept, was escaping. Everything you just said, Tech, is like exactly what I was going for in that album. It kind of is exactly what I'm going for was or did go for with Golden Living Room for a long time. That you can be there and you have these feelings of a place that doesn't really exist, or does it exist, you know? And because you felt so many feelings from experiencing that for so many hours of your goddamn life.
Yeah.
These games that it's like you have these virtual memories of something that doesn't really exist, but very much so exists.
Exactly. It's like you don't remember sitting on the couch holding a controller with your mouth dropped. You remember like going into the pyramid and shifting sand lands, you know, and like
it's particularly important that like you remember that like that era of graphics, I think, because if you do that now, if you were say to be born in like 2000 and when you were coming of age, the graphics are already so like they're already like, it's like they're not good enough to be like real, but they're like not bad enough that it requires a certain level of like emotional imagination to connect to. And so I feel like it's harder to, it's easier for to like connect to, maybe that's a personal bias, but easier to connect to something that you would have to like fill in the
that's what I was about
gaps,
to say. Yeah,
you know. But
see, it sounds to me the comparison between like Vaporwave and New World, like Vaporwave is supposed to be like it feels like a corporation telling you what's cool and then being like all cheesy about it, being like, hey kids, this is what's cool. Whereas New World is like you said, like kind of like a sincere like, this is what we liked. Like it's not
you're just crying. Yeah. New World, you know, like you have to. It's all about. So there's a connection. Just to recap, so there's a connection to music theory, right? So in order to be a New World artist, you have to be an instrumentalist of some sort or have some sort of knowledge of music theory, because a big part of New World is knowing how to find the right pieces of a chord progression and be able to connect them in a way that isn't inept or
clearly guesswork.
Yeah, exactly.
You're crying. You're also bleeding profusely from your septum. And
very personal.
The loss of blood has caused you to believe that you're actually in this year 2000 graphics world. And overlay. No, I'm sorry, but no, the chord progression. I mean, absolutely. I'm not gonna get all Siri nerd on and start saying like Roman numerals and shit, but I mean, I've analyzed this music.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
He analyzed it so hard.
Oh, no. Did we lose him?
I don't know.
It's got like a little yellow icon next to his name now. Oh,
No.
boy.
We'll be right back.
It's the pain medicine, guys. I'm sorry.
We thought you like passed out onto your whatever keyboard, phone, whatever. Turned it off.
What was the sentence you were saying right before you got disconnected? Does anybody remember how it ends?
I thought he was talking about like how you weren't going to get into Roman numerals and shit, but
And then he started quoting Hitler and
Hello,
Yeah,
weird.
but it's more or less me coming to the realization that these composers were all doing these similar chord progressions, but it wasn't just Japanese video game artists and musicians doing it. It wasn't just 60s British rock. It wasn't just 14th or 16th century. It was. It's kind of a universal thing. Oh wait, it didn't fail. I'm still there.
yes.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought my call failed.
You were just like, God damn it.
It's kind of a universal thing, and it all ties together. And I lost my train of thought. So yeah, go on.
Well, if to continue the recap about what New World is, and this is something that I said to HKE when he just put out Dreams, is that Vaporwave is like a new sort of younger generation that's like excavating the ruins of a near history. So
That's a
it's
pretty
like
good,
the 90s.
thought.
It's like this mystical, weird land, and they're finding all of these artifacts and they're displaying them in these bizarre, like Tumblr museums. Whereas New World is like an adult remembering a feeling from when they first experienced the same artifacts, if that makes sense. So there's like a crossover in a lot of the source material, but the philosophy that sort of drives it or whatever, it comes from a very different place.
That's
Yeah,
very,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a
New
very
World is early millennial. Vaporwave is late millennial.
Yeah, it's what I like to call the difference between Ren and Stimpy millennials and SpongeBob millennials.
yeah.
It's
There
all
we go.
technically the same generation. We all grew up with the internet and shit, but the people that are like 5 to 10 years older, there's like some weird. It's like the final residue of Gen X was still on us. Like there were major record labels, and you had to buy music, and it was
Right.
like we still got a taste of the
Yeah,
20th
there's-
century, and
there's
now
some
all
stuff.
bets are off. You know.
I feel like me and Hex are kind of like in the weird spot where we're not really like
Yeah.
we're both. I think. Well, I mean, we're 22, 23 ish. And like so we're not like totally out of the loop. Like I said, I played PSO and stuff and like Shenmue, but I'm also and like, but I've also seen like Ren and Stimpy and like that was all going on when I was like conscious. But then I also am not. I'm also part of like that SpongeBob generation, I guess. I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I'm not gay.
It's so in the line.
But like I said, like I'm not 16, but I'm
Yeah.
also not 30.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, let me make New World. No.
But yeah, it all came to a head when Scott Michael, who is one of
Yeah.
just the best human beings that I have ever known in my entire life. For anybody who knows Scott Michael, big shout out.
I wanna know
Oh,
that.
that's what I thought we were talking about earlier when we were talking about Michael Green. I was
No, yeah,
Yeah.
recordings.
Oh, hold on. I
lost
think
you.
we just cut out for a sec.
Oh, hello.
Yeah,
Can you hear me
we're
now?
all good now. God. Episode
So
full of
Scott
excitement.
Michael, who runs Atlantis Recordings, he, like after Tech and I, we were just doing the Death Dynamic Shroud for fun and as a joke, and then Scott Michael contacted us, and he asked me to make an album for his label, which that was like Capitol Records to me
Right.
because I was so obsessed with Internet Club and everything about Internet Club, and like Dreams 3D was on that label, and so I was like, oh my god, yes. So that album, feelings of #NewWorld or whatever, the one with like the basketball girl and like the melting text on the front that actually says New World on the cover, like I just like poured everything into making that New World mixtape or whatever. It was like 20 tracks and just absolutely, I think that was like the first time that I attempted to define New World as something and take the joke to like the next level of like jokedom, if you will.
A sincere joke, though.
So like I can't tell you how, because when I discovered Golden Living Room, it was like, oh my god, like how did we both reach the same conclusion? It's like, because we both obviously heard Vaporwave, and all of us were like musicians that reacted to it in a certain way, but like but Joel and I, like specifically because of our love for Final Fantasy XI and PSO music, it's like when I heard New Nostalgia, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I could have made this album, you know? And that's why I started calling him out, like, yo, dude, like, Joel, you make New World. Like, I'm sorry, but like this is happening. And now that it's spiraled to the point that that you guys would have us on to like talk about New World, it's like the greatest joke we've ever told. You know what I mean?
I mean, sometimes there can be a weird, like, you can go about advertising a new, quote unquote, like a new genre, like the wrong way. We've seen that. And like, you know, you can even ask like Golden Living Room, like when Joel contacted me, you know, I'll be honest, like I wasn't really familiar, and I was like, I thought he was just kind of like trying to fuck with me. He's like, oh, I want to be on the show, and I was like, have you heard the show? And like, I was like, I don't want anyone like coming on here and then like trying to make me look like an ass and be like, New World, but like, you know, obviously I can see it's not.
Yeah, like we'll be honest about it. So like, it's a joke, but we're just like happen to be artists with a big sense of humor. So it's, you know, it's still like legit, I guess, but it's also like we don't take it like, I don't know, like some people who get super upset and pissed off about, you know, like, no, my album is this, and I say it is, and if you don't think it is, like, oh, you make me so angry. It's just like, LOL, whatever.
Oh, what?
So what would the reaction be if someone, let's say some young producer, was like, look at my New World album, and like...
Well, that, like, I thought it was funny when that, like, that Best Vaporwave 2015...
Oh, yeah, was there a New World tag?
Yeah, New World was on there.
So was my album.
Yeah, it's like, they were just, like, more... There were, like, albums that, like, I like, well, there's, like, stuff that I hadn't heard.
I was like, hey, who are these people?
I was like, oh, I guess, oh, sure, why not? I think it's, I mean, if somebody... Well, there have been albums. New World kind of got co-opted by Hard Vapor,
right?
Or was tried to be, I guess. I don't know.
Attempted.
Yeah. I think because I don't know, because we have a good relationship with David Rousseau, and but I think it's.
Should I bleep that? I don't even know.
I think his name is public by this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
This is a Nozcast. I don't care.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he's pretty public, right? He's like all over Facebook and stuff.
Oh, I know he is.
Okay. Anyway.
Oh, you're name dropping right now.
But yeah, the point is, I guess, like things have been tagged New World since, and it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, all right, like
it's sweet, like it's awesome. Like I'm all about it.
So
like,
yeah.
I mean, it kind of relates in a way. Like the joke with this show is that we have like a country themed vaporwave called Tumblewave. I don't know if you've seen that, but the fact that like we made a subreddit for it, and there are people who I have no idea who they are. They're like, oh, a Tumblewave, and I'm like, oh,
wait,
cool.
Because of like tumbleweed in the desert?
Yeah,
that's fucking brilliant. That's amazing.
We're putting together a compilation if you guys are in.
Anybody who knows, New World artists are always down for comps.
Okay. I'm putting together an album, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, so it's just kind of funny, like, to see other people.
Yeah, people want to be. They like to be a part of those, like.
Yeah.
It's like fun. You're part of like an in group. It's probably
I mean, especially if people who like, say like, big name artists or label owners are like, hey, create this new genre, and then like the first 5 or 6 people get on, and like they have like a direct connection to people. So.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's like kind of. I mean, I don't know. I could like digress about Hard Vapor for a long time, but
we encourage.
No, yeah, I was just about to, like, because I mean, Hard Vapor in a lot of ways is very similar to New World, not in like the sound or any of the philosophies or concepts, but just that like it's a joke, and like I feel that like Wasex and HKE, like they feel the same way about Hard Vapor as like Tech and I do about New World. Like there is like a tender like it's your little baby almost, you know. But even though it's a joke, but it like you're kind of serious about it, you know what I mean?
And like there's nothing,
but it's coming from an honest place, you know. It's like you're trying to like they're both calling out vaporwave, which is kind of funny,
right? And
in very different ways.
The biggest difference is that no one from New World has ever called me a faggot.
Right. That's what I mean. The difference. There's a stark difference between New World.
Subtleties.
Just the subtle. It's very subtle.
Well, you know, the age requirement for New Worlds, we all have a certain tactfulness and professionalism that we bring to the table. I'd like to think.
I think it's. I mean. I don't even feel like talking about it.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's a touchy thing. We don't want to be, called out again.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, honestly, like, not to get controversial, but like, the current state of like the scene, all right? Like, it was never vaporwave, like the dream catalog scene. It makes me so sad that everybody just like splintered and got pissed off at each other, and like. And it was just a lot of producers that burnt a lot of bridges, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, I don't know, like, and then and so now they're all like, they're all friends with me on Twitter, but none of them are friends with each other anymore, and they just talk shit about each other, and it's like, Jesus.
I've definitely learned from a few people I look up to, especially like people like Cyberpunk or even the Los Angeles people. Like, they don't necessarily engage too far to where you just kind of want to have bridges to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no point.
What's the point of being mad at anybody, really? Like, I mean, that's what I was gonna say. There are things about like the whole there are things about Hard Vapor and its approach that I mean, definitely don't agree with like at all. But it doesn't mean that like I can't like interact with them and like get the joke. And I don't know. I think it's like people want to be as. People want to do the PC thing and be and not accept or tolerate people saying like faggot and that kind of thing, but at the same time it's like yes, like sure, but you're not going to you cannot control other people, and you just have to kind of accept that like some people like that like.
Ironically, you must accept that people are different than you.
Yeah, and like even though like maybe like the joke gets out of hand or something like that, like they're like they're clearly like good people. Like you're just like you're getting like mad about like I don't know. It just seems silly to splinter yourself and create so much drama. But a lot of them are at an age where like you kind of do that. You get mad and like I don't know. I kind of understand.
Yeah. I see a
of...
lot of myself in those younger kids, like when I was that age.
But yeah, when I was 19, I was like I was very angry all the time, and so like I might have responded a very similar way had I 19 now. So I mean, like I guess you can't fault them in that sense, but it's just kind of it's sad for vaporwave, I guess, in the sense that it's just very like kind of seemingly decline era.
And it's kind of funny that like I have noticed like once I find out artists' age, their opinions like almost, not that they're right or wrong, but they make sense more.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It's a weird thing.
You can understand, yeah, because you give them the benefit of the doubt based on their like age perspective, like
Yeah.
and
one of the hardest things about like, I don't know, like transitioning from your 20s into your early 30s, it's like the realization that everything that you were so passionate about and thought was so important in your 20s is just absolute bullshit, and you can't change anything, and it's, you know, life is just a horrible nightmare.
it's just funny because you realize that the same thing happens when you turn 20 based on your teen years.
Exactly. Well, but also that but like young people still have the right to be young and be like a dick the way that you were when you were 21. Like they have that right to do that now. And and Twitter's just kind of a weird thing because I find that I end up interacting with all these people that are like fucking teenagers, and sometimes I have to like remind myself like I should just not be pissed off at this person because like this is weird, and like our lives are so completely different, and I remember like what it was like to be a teenager, and it's completely different from.
And Twitter's this touchy thing because it's very hard to explain yourself if anything happens on there. Because if you piss someone off and like don't mean it, it's hard to like apologize because you can only type so many words.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can only backpedal at 144 RPM or whatever.
RPM. Right. So yeah, that's that got crazy deep.
Welcome to the new world, my friends.
New world. I do want to talk about like it's funny because Joel Golden Living Room set this whole thing up kind of so he could talk about the post-internet remixes. And it's been a very Death Dynamic show.
Well, we are the Trojan horse. You led us in the fucking gates.
And I'm not complaining. I love it. But I think it's time we did hear from Joel.
Well, it kind of evolved, and that's how initially I approached it. But then when I asked James and Tech to come, and I've been wanting to talk about New World for so long. That kind of took the forefront because I would rather talk about New World. I would rather focus on New World. But I mean, post-internet is New World as hell. I mean, that album is pure New World. And the remixes are something totally different, and it wasn't even on purpose. They come from musicians and artists like all over the place that aren't even interconnected throughout the vaporwave community. Now there are a lot of vaporwave artists and other people who are kind of connected.
Do you wanna name drop some?
Sure. Mesh, Nico, HKE, Telepath. One of my good friends from college, Izzy Dominguez. We had Langling, Sun Moon Star. The guy who runs This Ain't Heaven Recording Concern, the label that has released most of my tapes. Sarah Mangala. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. And then obviously Death's Dynamic Shroud. I tried to get Giant Claw in on it, but he was just finishing Deep Thoughts and he's talking with that, so that's too bad. But that's all right there. But yeah, I'm really excited to have so many of these artists on here, and it's going to be really great. It's coming out on Finery, based out of Denmark.
Right.
And for those people that bought post-internet the tape, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you got it. It's coming out as a double cassette, so you can get post-internet and the remix version, or you can get just the remix version. So you already have post-internet, then you can get post-internet remixes, or you can get both of them because the second edition is going to be a little bit different. So anyway, we can leave it at that if you want to. It's not really all that much to talk about.
Man, thank God we brought everyone else. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. What I noticed, I have heard it. Thank you. It's really cool. And like in the music scene, in like the pop music scene, like a remix means like, oh, we're just gonna EDM this, or like, like we're just gonna make it have a drop or something. But like, it's very fun to hear like an ambient or like a slush wave artist like quote unquote remix like a very heavily sampled song.
Right.
It's really cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, like.
And oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you said Slush Wave, like Vaporer and Telepath. They both did some pretty incredible things with the tracks that I gave them.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
No, I was just going to say that I was a huge fan of Post-Internet. It actually made my world-famous top 20 albums of the year annual Tumblr post. It was in like the top 10 because, I mean, Joel, I feel that if we didn't live on opposite ends of the country, you know, I feel like we could interface in a very similar way that Tech and I do. I mean, all three of us, really. If the three of us, imagine us in a room together, it would be a dream.
Trifecta.
That's dynamic living room.
So I always make the joke, like, every time there's a new list out, so far it's happened twice with the 2015 Essentials, and then there's, like, if you know who Quick Brown Fox is, he released, like, a list, like, somehow on Vaporwave, the subreddit, just like voting, and I was on both lists, so I would make jokes about like, don't talk to me unless you're on this list, and people and with the Sim Earth tape, I don't know if you saw that, is released, and it was like a 25 like limited edition, and like a lot of people didn't get it. It's so cool, and I was like, all right, you need to either have a tape. You'd be on both of those lists, and then you can talk to me. And like sometimes, some people don't get the joke. And what I'm asking is, am I on your list?
Well, you know, it's funny you bring that up. So I tried to follow 3D Blast on Twitter. Well, I did follow.
I'm about to say tried to.
I know, I did. I followed 3D Blast on Twitter. One day goes by, no follow back. I'm like,
Really?
I start seeing some tweets from 3D. I'm like, oh, so this motherfucker's tweeting. I can't get a follow back. Like, do you know who the fuck I am? Like, do you know who? So I unfollow 3D Blast.
Oh my god!
Like, how dare you, right? But then a few days go by. I'm like, no, man, I really should follow this guy. You know, like this is, you know, I should. He probably just missed the notification, so I follow 3D Blast again. Okay, for a second time. Another day goes by, no follow back. So this time I'm like, yo, fuck it.
You think I
like fuck this? And then like a few days later, Joel messages me on Facebook like, hey, do you want to be on like 3D Blast like podcast? I'm like, man, that like kinda, but like that motherfucker, like he never fucking followed me back. So I agreed to be on the podcast, but this time I did not follow, but I did get the follow from 3D Blast, and 3D Blast, you got that follow back.
Well, thank you.
James is a fickle maiden.
So what I'm at?
Action has been made.
So what I'm asking
I mean, that's deep Twitter drama. I mean, that's behind the curtain shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Behind the dynamic shroud.
yes.
Oh! So what I'm asking is, am I on that list?
Answer the question, dude.
As if I'm not, then I'm hanging up the fucking call.
Well, we're here, aren't we?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. We all know that.
We're all friends now. It's okay.
You're not on his list.
Oh yeah, I didn't care. Actually, to bring back a point, you were talking about like Atlantis being like a big like I don't know, and not influence, but like a big like deal.
Yeah.
You. And like I remember I released the Pioneer 3 EP, and they recommended it as like on their Bandcamp, and I like fucking freaked out. I was like, no way. That was cool.
Yeah, Atlantis was definitely like they were like a huge. That was such a huge deal to James and I to be like, somebody wants to put our music out on a label. We're gonna be so famous. I'm just kidding. That part didn't happen, but
No, it was not like that. I mean, it's like, I mean, we had cassette releases before on other labels.
Had we?
Well, I mean, I was on Orange Milk in like
Oh yeah, that's
2013
right.
or whatever, and then the Russians, Singapore Sling, they put out a bunch of stuff. But it was like it was a big deal because it was like, yo, Internet Club is on this label,
Yeah,
and they're interested in our like vaporwave joke. Like this, people could say the word New World someday, you know, that aren't you and me, and here we are.
Here we are.
Made it.
Nice. I feel like okay. Well, let's go to some Twitter questions. Let's see. We already answered where does the name come from by unknown caller. So thank you for that question. It was answered. You said it was from someone's animation video.
Yeah, Mad Cat Lady. So just go to YouTube and search Death's Dynamic Shroud, and you'll see a picture of a skeleton, and just strap in. And I mean, watch that, and then dive into her history. She has hundreds of just fucking bizarre, just fucking weird shit, man. Like, I highly recommend it.
This next one, I wish. I'll ask the question, and then I'll say that I think I mess up. This says, "What are the influences on track 1 and how he constructed it? Also for the rest of the album." Now I don't know who he's talking about. I think it's Golden Living Room of post internet. I think he's talking about Tech, right?
Tech. Oh yeah, the song dedicated to.
I got really confused.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right. The track 1 of post internet. I think he's talking about that.
Okay, yeah. There's this game called Wonder Eggs. Actually, I don't even know if it's a game or if it was even ever became a game. But I know they definitely composed the soundtrack. Anyway, I stumbled upon it at that Galvadia Hotel video game archive website, and I really like the overall feel. That composer, and I don't have that composer's name right now. I feel bad, but the name of that, a lot of the sample material on Post Internet came from that Wonder Eggs OST. So if you just search Wonder Eggs OST, you can find that. But the influences on Tech, I also was trying to kind of move away from the vaporwave thing. I don't know if I did that or not, but in the past I done like a lot of ambient stuff. So I was trying to move away from ambient and kind of started to add beat-oriented stuff in my music. And so finding a weird beat with a sound like a, I don't even know what that sound is. That what sounds like lip smack. Background keeps going and going and going. Kind of really like the feel of that. But the overall like ambient growing pads in the background that just kind of like explode, and then like I don't know, where all of a sudden just that beat pops in, and then then you have the high tech sounds in the background with the birds going, like the technology and the nature fusing together. That's kind of the theme that I went with Post Internet. And Oskov really did a great job with our collaboration track, I think, which is the next track. Kind of segue to that.
Yes. I have
but
it
yeah,
open.
it's definitely nature and technology coming together, or if a super advanced civilization or alien culture were to come to Earth in the middle of the jungle and land their spacecraft and open up their spacecraft and look out to the forest, that's kind of what you would hear, I guess. That's kind of what I was picturing in my mind at the time. But yeah.
All right, and second question from the same fella. He asks, I think it's for everybody, DAW, your DAW and VSTs, if you use those, or let's just say technique.
Audio
I guess.
units, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Any just hardware.
Digital audio workstations.
Digital audio, yes, digital audio workstations. So just is it all analog?
Oh
No.
Oh, sorry. Ableton. I use Ableton. I also use this sounds weird. Most people that I tell this to are like, what? I use Sony Vegas multi-tracking to do almost everything.
Hey, I use Premiere to edit this show.
Yeah. And so I edit mostly with audio, but then I go into Ableton to I just have a really backwards way of producing. I'm not a producer at all. I'm not. I'm really just a musician that like knows how to hit record on a computer. And then I know how to like chop up stuff and like arrange it. But I'd love to learn how to really produce one of these days. I mean, I'm sorry. I guess I am a little bit of a producer. I'm really learning now, but I'm more of a musician. I think really well as a producer sometimes. Yes, but yeah, I use Ableton, Sony Vegas, Virtual DJ, Sonar, and Finale.
I love program names. They're so cool. Finale, Sonar. DDS.
Yeah, I've used Logic forever, but when I started doing the NUWRLD stuff, I was actually in school at the time for like music technology, and Tech and I both were, and we were both exposed to Ableton in like an academic environment. So now I use both pretty much 50-50. I greatly prefer Logic's MIDI. Like the MIDI in Ableton it's a joke. It's a nightmare. But Ableton is so much better than Logic at like chopping up samples and easily manipulating the pitch and the timing of a sample. Like Logic just isn't built for that. Like Logic is somewhere between that and like a studio DAW, like Pro Tools or something.
Most of the people that I know that used Logic were usually like acoustic guitar players or like stuff like that.
Yeah, and so like there's a new HCMJ album that I made that's coming out sometime on somewhere, if not too distant future. But for that album, so I've recorded like a lot of guitars and vocals and stuff, and I did all of that in Logic, and then stemmed it out, and then brought that into Ableton, and then cut it up as if it were like a NUWRLD track there to make like new songs out of like my own instrumental recordings, and then taking that and bringing it back into Logic to like master it. And like summit and master it basically. So it's a marriage of those two apps for me.
All right, cool. Tech?
I use just Logic probably 80% of the time, and then Ableton for the other 20. When I record, for vaporwave at least, or for DDS, like I just take I put all my samples in Ableton to start off with, and then basically create a layout of the song, and like structure it in Ableton, because the like James was saying, like sample editing is just way beyond Logic in Ableton. But I really hate Ableton in general. I hate like being in Ableton, and so I just use it to edit samples, get the layout done, have the song structure and ready, and then I bounce all the tracks individually, and then import all of them into Logic, and do all my effects processing and anything else in Logic, just because I feel way more comfortable there.
That's kind of how I am with Venus and Ableton. I kind of treat it the exact same way.
And we can do with Hex. You're allowed to answer these too.
I use Pro Tools somewhat non-willingly. It's easily the worst DAW ever. So it's an industry standard, but I say that with air quotes because literally nobody I know uses this piece of garbage software. There's nothing I like about Pro Tools. And the only reason I use it is because it's already installed and I've memorized all the quick keys. But I'm losing my patience with it each day because it is agonizingly slow. Uses up all the CPU power, so it freezes, stalls, and I have to reset it constantly. I only have bad things to say about Pro Tools. But that said, that's what I use primarily. I might be switching over to Studio Live. I think that's the President's one when I build my new computer for my studio. But
Nice.
for the time being, I'm stuck with Pro Tools probably for the long run. And the worst part, I think, is after I updated it to the most recent version, for free, mind you, because I'd gotten Pro Tools version 9 at an inopportune moment when 10 came out like a month later. So I got a free upgrade for 10 and 11. But in 11, I off my Mac Pro, which I had recently upgraded to El Capitan, the latest OS, is not compatible with a lot of the internal software of Pro Tools 11. So I can't import audio at all.
Christ.
Yeah, which makes
Well,
sampling
if you have a
damn
Mac, why aren't you using Logic? Oh my God.
right.
He just agrees.
Yeah, definitely do that. I think in Pro Tools defense, I guess, I think it's really meant for like live band, like heavy duty hardware and extremely sophisticated like large studios.
Yeah, like I my only positive comments on Pro Tools is that it's excellent for editing.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a fantastic mixing and editing and mastering software, but it is agonizing if you're trying to write in it, which is the
Yeah.
only way I've made music in the past 5 years.
Yeah, we had to learn Pro Tools in school, and it was just like, well, this does pretty much everything Logic does, except
Yeah.
slower and is more cumbersome, and like it does a few things better than Logic, but I don't do any of those things, so I'm not interested.
Well,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
file doesn't even open with a master track. Like, it's like, Jesus Christ, like, why not?
Yeah, it's very like unintuitive.
It's like for the one, like, Norwegian guy who's, like, doesn't have an output track because that's his art, you know? And it's like, for that one guy, you know, we all have to fucking suffer.
Yeah, I mean, like you can set it to automatically have a master track whenever you open a new session, but like
Oh,
it shouldn't
nice.
have to be that way. It should already be that way. Why isn't it? So stupid.
And for me, I am a 13-year-old kid who knows how to torrent, so of course I use FL Studio.
Hey, people knock FL
Can't use
Studio, but
I
I know
love
a
it.
lot of great albums that were made on that shit.
Pioneer, Promise Girl. These are all my albums. That's the joke.
But Piper Spray used FL Studio, I know. Like, he does a bunch of, like, analog tape shit, but he definitely, like, mixes in FL Studio, I'm pretty sure. Or at least used to.
Well, and then final part of this is from, these questions are from a guy who asked this in that Vaporwave IO chat room, who's under the name Cheeseball. I asked him, I was like, do you really want to be credited as Cheeseball? And he was like, yep. I was like, okay. He said, so the influences, the DAW, and then this question are all from him. Where do you see Vaporwave going in 2016? Common question, but fun, I guess. Where do we see it going?
I think that
Uh,
I don't. Oh, wait.
Oh, everybody start over.
Who's talking?
I don't know.
All right.
I'm not saying anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that vaporwave. I have like a very negative opinion of the future of vaporwave.
Well, interesting.
In that, yeah, I think that it will slowly splinter into oblivion and kind of phase itself out of relevance if it kind of hasn't already. Like I think I feel like I'm more duped by its relevance because I'm immersed in it, than it actually has any real cultural relevance. Dream Catalog is a real thing, and I think has moved on, I guess, from vaporwave, and which is is something that I support. But I mean, like in the sense that there probably will always be like a pocket on the internet that will make vaporwave music, but I think that it's ultimately just a mixture of various different types of electronic music with an aesthetic packaging that somehow gives it the name vaporwave at this point. I don't think that
I do definitely see like the music industry definitely celebrates original. Like, I mean, I know there's like tons of samples in like pop songs, but like, I mean, sometimes just slowed down music doesn't necessarily cut it.
Yeah.
Well, it's that it cut it when the concept, the high art concepts were there to like back it up, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
Just like any other like modern art movement, you know, or even like, it's very similar to punk. Like real punk happened for 2, maybe 3 years, and then it was over. And anything that came sort of after that was like,
Yeah, sure, but
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the difference between like the Sex Pistols and I don't know, like Anti-Flag or some shit. You know, it's like, does that make sense?
That's not fair though, because hardcore is like a legitimate thing too.
Yeah.
I think it would be better to say something like the difference between like some fucking like like late 70s, early 80s like punk versus like The Offspring.
Okay, yeah.
Would be a safer like.
Yeah, because like Dead Kennedys were legit and shit, and that was all sort of after the fact. So,
And
yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
it's strange because like I'm into the scene. I like what I hear, but I think it's a little like almost childish to be like, what the fuck you mean you don't like this just slowed down track where it's kind of glitching out in a couple parts? And it's like you gotta understand that like a lot of people aren't gonna like that.
Yeah.
And that, like, and I'm not bashing it. Like I said, like a ton of people. I love listening to stuff. I love echo jams, where just like loops and stuff, and it's mesmerizing to me. But like, I think some people have aspirations, or like they want us to say that it's going to become the new thing. But
Yeah,
I really don't. I think it's gonna. I think like 80s inspired. I think 80s stuff is coming back. And I think the whole visual aspect of vaporwave kind of. Like in C-punk is kind of rising, but I don't know about like
aesthetic. If any part of vaporwave lives on past like this decade, it will be the impact that the aesthetic had.
Right.
the way that the 90s are remembered.
Yes, for sure that will be it. The music itself, though, and honestly, like the music itself owes so much to like Tiny Mixtapes and like that Dummy Mag article, because. If like Adam Harper hadn't written that article, and if Tiny Mixtapes wouldn't have championed and basically created the projected what their like concept of the album was for Floral Shop, then there wouldn't even be this like big interest in it. It would have just like there wouldn't have been enough people that found it. You know what I mean? Like it would have never become like the thing that it has become. And probably would have petered out like as soon as it happened, basically.
And like I will say, like people need to keep doing what they like. And like I feel like it's the same as like a chiptune scene, where like there's a lot of good chiptune stuff, and you can kind of like become not famous, but like you can kind of make like a soundtrack, or like people like Anamanaguchi, kind of like bringing it like, oh, it's a sound people remember, people love, it's a unique sound. But, like, no one's really, like, no one's big.
Yeah, like, no one's going to be famous from doing vaporwave. At the very best, you can be meme-ified.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, even famous and success aren't really necessarily related. I think you can still you can get successful in the genre if, honestly, I don't even know if I'm, like... I don't even know if I believe myself right now.
Well, but like the biggest success story to come out of vaporwave is Saint Pepsi, right?
Yeah.
And but he just happens to be a real musician.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, so like the only way that you can make it is what you were saying earlier about how it favors the original, you know. if a label doesn't have to deal with clearing a bunch of samples, and instead you can just take actual instruments and construct your vision from nothing. And maybe it's like very old-fashioned to like put that on a pedestal. I mean, it definitely is like predating the 20th century, since in the 50s they were reappropriating art and shit. But it's I don't know, like that's for a lot of reasons that's the only way to get to that level, I guess.
Yeah, as long as like there are like lawsuits regarding like intellectual property and copyrights.
Yeah.
Like vaporwave doesn't really have a chance in the traditional sense.
Unless you're like fucking Fatboy Slim or some shit, but
right. But you can make electronic music, wrap it in the vaporwave wrapper, and then maybe like original recordings, and then wrap it in the aesthetic wrapper of vaporwave, and then maybe like have some success if the music is good or whatever. But like ultimately it's not really vaporwave anymore, like
right.
as far as like musical genre is concerned. Vaporwave to me at this point is just an aesthetic wrapper on whatever you insist belongs, and I think that
whatever drone or ambience.
You're not going to get away with putting a vaporwave wrapper on like a pop punk album. You just might, though, right? But you just might if you can convince enough people.
If you got the track titles just right.
Yeah, then maybe. But yeah. So I think that like the idea of vaporwave like growing in 2016 is like. I don't really know that it's. I just don't see it being. I think that people will start to expand out of it.
I think it's definitely we're seeing that.
Yeah,
I think if Vaporwave was Sonic the Hedgehog, we are in the Sonic Heroes era, and it's only gonna get worse.
I'm still stuck in Sonic 3 Blast.
So that is the fucking golden age, my friend.
I don't know, Sonic Generations is pretty sweet.
It is.
No, it was. But
the first
but was it really? Was it really?
Yes.
It was, but it wasn't. I don't know.
That's a whole other podcast.
It had a great end boss. I'll give you that.
In Generations?
Yeah,
Are you joking?
You didn't like
the end boss was
the time thing.
Yeah, are you kidding?
The time thing wasn't a very fun boss at all.
That boss sucked.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was really hard though. Like
I don't know how to beat it, and I've beaten it.
Yeah, but it was like an old school style, challenge.
I
don't know. I just really like the
everything.
Yeah, we can get into this in an entirely different.
The next question is, what did you think of some Generations? No. Anyways, thank you, Cheeseball.
Question for the audience.
This is from Mael, aka Bacon Wave. Hey. He asked, James, did you finally succeed in living like this?
There's a great line from David Lynch's film Dune, where Paul Atreides asks the Bene Gesserit, whatever. She's talking about the men who have tried to drink the water of life, and sort of go beyond. And she says, "Many men have tried." And Paul asks her, "They tried and failed?" And then she looks him in the eyes and says, "They tried and died." So that's how I would answer that question.
I love it.
If only you understood how many times I've heard James say that exact quote.
All right, thank you, Maya. Next couple questions are from Glyph Dice on Twitter. He's asked this question before, but wants to ask it again, which is fine, Are there any albums that you don't like, but can appreciate how others would, vaporwave or not?
This this is my favorite kind of question, because like I'm a big proponent of the concept of like thinking about something or having an opinion on something in an objective sense versus a subjective sense.
Right.
And I've been in like so many arguments with people who don't understand how I can think that Kid A is the best Radiohead album while still liking OK Computer more. And because I have like I guess there would be some sort of like abstract concept of like a checklist that like an album would have to have in order to be like considered objectively good, but like I think there are plenty of albums that I've heard that I don't like. The first one that comes to mind is God, I'm embarrassed that I can't think of the title of it right now. It's the Joy Division album with the fucking cover. You know?
Oh, the one with the cover.
Unknown Pleasures.
Yeah.
Fuck, of course you knew it.
I get why that album is like a classic album, and I get why people would like it, but like I don't personally like listening to. Like I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. But I do think that it's good. And I think that like the best way to think about like music, I guess, in that way or whatever, to be able to have respect for things that you don't like, is to think about it in the sense of like like music as a dog show. So like you wouldn't like put like a Dachshund and like a Great Dane against each other and then be like, well, obviously the Great Dane's way bigger, like it's better dog. Like you can't just say that. So that's why in dog shows they have the specific dog breeds only against one another. So like dachshunds and like whatever other, I don't know, probably hounds or something, I don't know. But anyway,
the specifics on dog shows.
Yeah, sorry, that's not my forte. But like, the point is they look at those and then consider which dog is the objective best at being that breed, and then at the end, which I like this idea a lot, they have the best in show concept, and that's when they really do pit each one of the dogs like against each other. But it's still not, you're not saying this dachshund better than this Great Dane. You're saying, is this dachshund better at being what a dachshund should be than this Great Dane is at what being the Great Dane should be? So it's stupid to say, well, this Katy Perry album sucks objectively because it's nowhere near as good as Abbey Road. And it's like, well, of course not, but like, is it good at what it's doing, at what it's attempting?
It's kind of like putting a very broad like thing on which one is a better vehicle, this Ford Taurus or a tow truck?
Yeah.
It's like, well, a tow truck can tow cars.
Yeah.
It's totally like you can't really. I mean, they both do things differently.
Yes, exactly. And so, and there's something that you're looking at pop music like you're wanting it to do certain things. Like a pop album should, you should know the hook after the third time that you hear it in the song, and like you know what I mean. Like there's a checklist of things, just like there's like a checklist of things that a dachshund should be.
You're really pushing that dog thing.
Hey, but no, I think I just think that like if you can like appreciate that concept, then you will be more than capable of listening to things with an objective mind, which will only help you to be like able to appreciate more than you originally probably set out.
Also, a friendlier person.
Yes.
Yeah, it just gives you empathy.
Yeah, I used to hate early 90s indie rock, like Pavement, like what I was talking about listening to earlier. I used to hate like that sound completely, and all like super chunk and like, I don't know, like whatever, Chapel Hill bands and stuff. I didn't like it at all. But recently I've been like giving that another go because I've started to consider like, well, what was the era like in America during that period of time? Why were these bands doing what they were doing? Like, what existed prior to it that influenced them? Why is it unique that they were making music this way? And then then listening to it and thinking about it in its historical context, and that makes it so much more enjoyable. Like, you can find yourself liking all kinds of things that you never thought you would before. And so I think it's like, while there are albums that I don't like, I definitely can appreciate like what they're doing, where they're coming from, in like that sense.
Well, I think that describes the question.
Well, I thought he said, didn't he say like, are there albums that?
Oh, I think he was being like a specific album.
Oh yeah, I said Jordan.
You said you wanted an album title, you douchebag.
James acting for me right now.
No, I actually think that was really interesting. I'm just kidding. Joel, anything?
Oh, no.
No, there are no albums that you appreciate.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm just kidding.
I could throw. I'll say the Beatles. I'll say between Sgt. Pepper and Revolver. Like, I know I should probably like Sgt. Pepper better than Revolver, but I don't, because Revolver's better.
No, you're actually right, though. I think that you would be surprised how many people have that opinion, and I am one of them. So it's just a New World feeling, you know?
Yeah. I know I should probably like Sgt. Pepper better, but I don't, so deal with it.
I like Sgt. Pepper better, and I think it's objectively better. That's where James and I, that's a line that separates us.
But we can't just be the same. Then we wouldn't be America's #1 super couple.
Did James, you answer that? I don't remember.
I didn't. Yeah. I don't know, maybe, like, just exactly what Tech was talking about, but with, like, the Smiths. I feel like, unless I were British, as much as I love British music and British rock and roll, I feel like that if you say that you're a Smiths fan, but you are not British, that you are, like, not being completely honest. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. It just seems it's you have to be British or you just don't get it. I don't know, because it's certainly doesn't have the appeal of any of like the good British bands. But I understand that like that it was the Smiths were super important and very influential and certainly led to to a lot better bands. But I don't know. That's just me. So yeah, Smiths.
All right.
Queen is dead. Fuck it.
Hex, did you answer this before?
No. Well, I've answered.
Have you been on every episode besides the Poe one?
Almost. I've been on a lot of them. But just recently, actually, up until recently, I strongly disliked this one album by one of my favorite bands, Skinny Puppy.
Oh, right.
It's an album called Vivisect 6, and it's supposed to be a play on vivisection and 666 in Roman numerals. And I always hated it because it was such a chaotic mess. It was sort of I think it was like around the 90s or something when it came out, 80s or 90s. And it was sort of in that period where the band members were almost definitely on a lot of drugs. And they were just making the most insane, dancey noise, industrial music they could possibly fathom. And it just felt super unfocused and all over the place to a point where it was unlistenable even by my standards. And I love all their other work, but I strongly hated this one. And it's considered kind of like a Skinny Puppy classic, and people love it. And see, my issue with it is that of all their albums, conceptually, it's probably my favorite one because the whole thing was meant to be a protest about animal testing and vivisection. But this is like back in the 90s, so it was like a lot more, I guess, relevant or cutting edge of an opinion to have. But it like all the videos for the album were like actual videos of animal testing that they had captured. And the whole thing, it was so fascinating, and I couldn't give less of a shit because I hated the music so much. And then probably last week, I put it on at our office, the one where me and Incarnate 95 work at. And I was like, oh yeah, this fucking worst album ever. I have to like put it on and establish how bad it is. And then while I was listening to it, it was almost as though the only reason I could possibly have changed my mind on it is because how much I like Vaporwave. Because there's so many that album is 80s as fuck. It has so many like 80s sounds in it that are like exclusive to that like era. It's insane. So now I love the album because it has all those like twangy FM basses that you would hear in like Italo disco songs, and it's got those like really lame FM bells and clearly digital strings. I love it now. I tried sampling it, but I'm not very good at that.
But Pro Tools,
Well, yeah.
As for me, I think last time, this isn't even to start beef. Last time I said End of World Rave with a grain of salt. I know, like, whatever. Beef aside, not a fan of it. I get why, but blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. New albums. Uh-oh, I dropped something. Cut that out.
That was the spirit of Hard Vapor, man.
Yeah, seriously, I got cursed. Like,
the ghost of Vapor Past.
Saint Krishnov or whatever.
My brother is a huge fan of two albums, or two bands, or groups, I guess. One is LCD Sound System. Try to listen to them a few times. Not a fan. I guess.
Yeah, that's another one. I agree with that.
Yeah, I get why. I don't know. To me, it's just kind of a little empty. I don't know. Whatever. And then the Mars Volta. If anyone listen to that.
Yeah, I think the Mars Volta is actually not that good.
I agree. I can't. I'm just like, I'm out. You're done.
Yeah, I wouldn't even give them objective credit. I would just say that. Yeah.
I think I've heard like one song that I liked. Anyways, he really likes those albums and keeps telling me to revisit them, and I've done it, and now I'm certain to say I'm not a fan of those two. Anyways.
Yeah, it's like
burn my bridges with them.
It's like one of the when I think about video games and I think about rare mobs, rare monsters, notorious monsters. It's like somewhere out there, like there's a guy, and the Foo Fighters are his favorite band, and
I know
like
my dad just saw them live.
I don't know. It's just like Mars Volta is just they're just one of those bands where it's like some people are like so into it, but it's like what kind of person are you exactly? Does that make any sense?
An upset Spanish man.
Yeah, it's like they didn't find out about a whole bunch of other stuff that had they would have been able to have the knowledge.
Right.
Mars Volta is not that good.
I'm sorry, like as we're entering hour 3 here,
I know,
starting to lose it. You have no idea. Like this day has been fucking endless, and I have just been talking to people all day long. And then I came home, and it's still fucking happening.
So let's power through these last ones so we can get the fuck out of here.
But I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I followed you back, alright?
Hey, I appreciate it.
Let's see.
Maybe you'll be on my list next year.
Oh. I'm sure. Huge fan of Future Funk, I'm sure. And this one's for HCMJ, James. What is your secret to being so handsome, Winky Face?
Now, I did answer this on Twitter, but
right.
I can elaborate a little bit. So, I do have male pattern baldness. It started tragically early for me. Not as tragic as some people that I've seen, but it was
just to be clear, this is the secret right here.
Yeah, so this is the secret of my handsomeness. So it started for me really in my mid to late 20s. And it kind of sucked because a big part of my identity was like this like bitch in long hair that I had. And I used to dye it like red. I had like long, beautiful red hair. And, my jeans just had a different idea for me. So like...
I thought you meant like your pants.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying my
like
jeans
those.
were tight and my hair was long.
Well, my
Anyways.
jeans still are tight, yeah. But it's cool though because at a certain point you reach a certain age or your looks appear a certain way that it's just like in your genetics and there's nothing that you can do about it. So it's like you either fight against it and look like a weirdo, or you embrace it and just be yourself. And my hair has reached this perfect length where, like, it is just like it's Ghostbusters Bill Murray, like.
Nice.
Like straight up, like if you Google Bill Murray Ghostbusters, I was in denial for a while. Like, no, it's like Jude Law. Like, no way, it is not like Jude Law. Like, it is Ghostbusters Bill Murray. So that combined with just high cheekbones and just the most intense eyes, like sinking into a black hole with every glance. Kind of eyes, all of this combined just makes what's basically the world's most attractive person.
Yeah, I was gonna say my favorite. I think what's probably the most attractive part about James is his humility.
I've been compared to, Mother Teresa, for example.
All right.
Just really selfless, always ready to give, and I don't want anything in return. I want to give my gifts, my talents to humanity. So when I'm gone, I know that I've watered that garden, I've nurtured that bed. Those seeds will grow long after I'm gone. And that's enough for me. I don't need all the recognition in the world. I just want to live forever.
He tried living like this and he succeeded.
I try. I'll try.
All right. Well, thank you, Glyph Dice, for those questions. Next one, we got like 2 more. This one is quick. MP3 Neptune asks, once again, another repeat question. You know the drill. Do you eat mac and cheese with a fork or spoon?
Spoon. Big time. Spoon.
What? A fucking fork. What the hell's wrong with you?
See, and this is where I chime in and say the real answer to the question isn't fork or spoon. It's how you answer the question. You just came at him and attacked him.
That's true.
You can get more of the gooey, cheesy goodness. You can.
Can you stab it? No, you can't stab it.
You can't stab it, and
No.
I appreciate both ways, but
You gotta stab it.
You can't spend your whole life just fucking scooping everything, man. You just gotta-
like a fucking poop smith.
All right, so yeah, we got that. And then this is from John Smith, was his Twitter name, aka @sortaangry.
Oh, this guy.
Do you know him? I don't know.
Yeah, he's been like going around asking all these people like all these questions about vaporwave. Like he just keeps like asking all these questions. I don't know who the hell it is, and he doesn't have very many followers.
Sorry, dude. I won't follow you back.
I keep answering him though.
So he says, you make a lot of the DDS.WMV album covers and videos. Are you about the art?
Yes.
Those are his wording.
Yes,
wordings.
I'm about to art.
Actually, he spelled about without, so it's ABT.
Yeah, it took me a second to decode this, and I did answer this on Twitter. I tried to get ahead of this one, but yeah.
Sorry. So yes, the answer is yes, plain and simple. Which is a weird thing to say. It's like, do you make art? Yes. Are you into art?
No.
Oh.
I just can't, like, I just don't want to talk about myself
I'll answer
anymore.
for James.
No.
Oh. No, yeah, James does a lot of the art. He's good at it, and he does the video work too for DDS videos and other people even,
Cool.
and gets it.
Giant Claw.
Amazing.
The Giant Claw video.
The something cloud video. What did he say?
Oh, the Giant Claw video for
Giant Claw.
Guys,
for
my
Dark
nose.
Web, yeah.
Sorry.
That break comes
Yeah, well, 3D animation I was all about as like a 90s kid. I had the Mind's Eye and Beyond the Mind's Eye on VHS, and it was always my dream to be able to do that. And then finally, that technology became affordable and accessible, and I am now able to fulfill those fantasies and create virtual worlds, which is all I ever wanted to do, really.
All right. That wraps up the questions. Wow, we're almost done with this. Can you believe that? This brings us to the best part. Plugs. Let's start with Death's Dynamic Shroud, I guess. Anything coming up? Anything you want to hint at? If not, fine. Keeps,
I don't know how to. Yes.
Something's coming.
There is something coming.
You can probably say a little more than that, Tech.
Okay. Well, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
No.
I'll tell you what. There's something coming soon, very, very soon, like weeks, not months. That will tell you more.
That's been a long time coming, and we are all very excited.
Yes, I'm very excited about it.
Well, cool.
And on a personal note, my first album is HCMJ since 2012 will be dropping sometime soon, somewhere in a very cool way.
Awesome. Golden Living Room. Talk about something.
Yeah, post-internet remixes are coming out on Winery. And the beginning of May is what I was told is when the tape should be ready. I know I told everybody like the end of February, and then I said March. But a lot of stuff got held up. You know how remix albums are with people.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's really hard to get people to do the work for you. So anyway.
Don't I know it?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's coming. And then there's also a lot of new Golden Living Room music that's totally New World, Hard Vapor, hard MIDI.
Hard life.
Hard. All right. Sounds dope. Hex, anything from you? Or the Lost Angles in general?
We've got the new La Matina album, kind of a vapor noise kind of album, Pilots, that was put up on Wednesday, and that's going to be a transparent yellow tape, which is
cool,
pretty ballin'. And then just this morning we put up Dan Mason's Miami Virtual tape as well.
I bought it. Sorry, I'm yawning.
And we love you for it. And then next week is going to be the new 2002 album.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm on that one or another one, but I'm on one of them. Awesome. Look forward to Lost Angles. And for me, the best part of the show, where I get to plug stuff. Currently working on my new release for Beer Wizard that hopefully will get. I mean, supposed to get a tape release, supposed to release in April. That got pushed back to hopefully May, but I don't really know. But that's, undetermined. So to hype it up, I will say the collabs are lit. We got Dan Mason, MP3 Neptune, Haircuts for Men, Waterfront Dining, freaking Nano. those are only the confirmed ones, and we have a couple more that are unconfirmed. Those are some dope collabs.
Oh yeah.
And Promise Girl tape run is still happening. I don't know when. A lot of things I don't know.
Well, one of the great things about cassettes and cassette culture is the suspense. Will
Right.
it actually come out? When will it come out?
Well, both the labels that I'm releasing with both had huge PayPal problems, I think.
Oh.
So that kind of got a little fucked.
I will say that for the next, the next thing for Death's Dynamic Shroud is as the follow up to I'll Try Living Like This.
Ooh.
And is entirely by me. Does not feature James or Keith. So if it's a total disaster, we know who the good ones are.
You heard it here first.
I tried
Just
living
put
with
it
that.
all on the fucking line, but nah, I heard it. It's good.
All right. And of course, the Comfort Zone Telepath remix compilation releases April 1st. That's really fucking good, if I do say so. It's not me. It's a lot of different artists. And there will be a stream of it on vaporwave.io on March 31st at 8 p.m. EST. You can listen to it the day before. How fun. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That was the longest episode so far. And I really
Yeah, I mean,
enjoyed
this
it.
was as epic as like. Joel, did you ever listen to any Final Fantasy XI podcasts back in the day?
I haven't. I really have always meant to, and I never have.
Like, if you want to go on a nostalgia, there was one called Limit Break Radio and one called Pet Food Alpha, and
Oh God.
they would just like spend like 4 hours talking about like every ability and like cross-class combinations for like they would just like pick a job and then just go through every possible. It was just like incredible, and that this sort of reminded me of that. But instead of being like the Thief episode, it's the New World Takeover.
New
And I
World
definitely-
Takeover.
I definitely dig that.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, New World Dites. That's no, cut that out. Thank you to
Newbies.
Oh.
Ah!
Well, that one out
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I was trying to think of one. I cannot. Just thank you to Death's Dynamic Shroud, and a special big thanks to Golden Living Room for one, not only being here, but two, kind of setting it all up.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us, Joel.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks
sure.
And thanks for having us, everybody.
Yeah. And thanks for suffering through James and I. The
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know,
Definitely.
I'm just glad it's finally on the record. You know.
Yep. This is a big moment. This is a big get.
Yeah, true. You owe us.
Don't worry, my wife's not super pissed off that I'm an hour and a half late to bedtime. Don't worry, it's all good.
just pop some more of those pills, my friend, till the pain
That's
goes
right.
away.
Yeah, their bloody nose.
right.
Suffered. Anyways, and yeah. So thanks for being here, and we will see everyone later. Oh wait, I did forget. We're going out on a track, and it's somewhere. It's Golden Living Room track, the track Alto from Post Internet. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure. I played Final Fantasy XI for years and never got far enough to open up to you. Don't judge me, James. Don't judge me. I never got far enough to get to that place until I was an adult, revisiting the game in like 2013.
C
Yeah.
access is fucking rough, man. Don't feel bad
It really
about
is.
that.
It really is. Anyway,
COP.
Yeah, Chains of Prometheus, the best. But I'd seen screenshots and seen my friend play it, and it was just a beautifully nostalgic kind of thing. And the key changes are pretty epic in that. And trying to emulate the chords was fun with a Yamaha DX7. So yeah, anyway.
Cool. All right, we're gonna go on that track. This is Alto by Golden Living Room from the album Post Internet, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Good job, everybody.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
That was quite the ride.
How long are
Like
these?
3 hours. I need to go to the bathroom.
I need to smoke a cigarette like immediately.
Yeah, but yeah. Hey, honestly, I wish we would have known. We could have taken a longer break in the middle there. Oh, New
You
World.
sticking around?
Talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll BRB.
All right. Bye bye.
I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 for the last like 10 minutes.
I was
I'm
gonna
not gonna lie
ask
to
you
guys.
if you're into 14.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I am, but I just got into PSO2, and I'm finding it way superior. But that's just me.
It's great. It's fantastic. But 14 is definitely more like solid, polished, and not like kind of Sega sad. You know, like PSO2 is kind of Sega sad. Like in all, if we're being honest with ourselves, you know. But it's also fucking incredible. Like it is one of the way that they.
Super new to PSO2 though. Super new to it, so it could just be honeymoon phase.
Yeah, and I never have left the honeymoon phase. I just like I started playing like 2 months ago, and I played for a while, and then got back into 14 because it was like, why am I grinding it out in this game? I could just be playing 14, and so
I had I came from WoW,
oh, I did too, way back in the day.
and I can't shake it. I didn't like 14. Fight me.
I will never
I'd
get
rather
defensive
play
about
11.
14. Yeah, I mean 11 is pure, and 14 1.0 was actually something interesting that was released before it was finished, and it's a shame because it could have been great. And A Realm Reborn is awesome, but it's just calculated awesome. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we'll put enough mobs from 11 into this game so that you feel nostalgic about 11 while you're playing it, and we'll just shoehorn in like every Final Fantasy game into this game. I mean, A Realm Reborn is fan service the game.
Right.
And
I mean, I think it's
as
pretty.
a Final Fantasy
hard to
fan,
say.
I'm like, fuck yeah, jerk me off. This is awesome. But
Fuck
you know,
yeah,
once
jerk
I
me
come,
off.
I just feel empty inside. You know, whereas Final Fantasy 11 was like, this girl is kind of like weird looking, but to you, she's the most beautiful girl in the world, and she loves you, and you love her, and you will never forget that relationship, and what you shared was real, and it wasn't fake. Like 14 is like this. She's just so hot, you know, but she's like kind of dumb. But like 11 was like it was real. The connection you had with her. It's like no one else.
That's how I feel about Jack and Daxter.
You want to fuck Jack and Daxter?
Fucking die.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
Okay, guys, I gotta go.
All right.
All right,
See ya.
yeah, me too.